All right. All right, we're live. We're live a little bit early, actually. Howdy, howdy. Wait, the greenhouse effect guy got banned for transphobia. That's funny. Well, I guess I missed the whole conversation. Bummer. Yeah, a little bit early. I have a little bit of time this morning, so listening to the reel. Oh, that was just the one I just stitched. Yeah, it's because I stitched it, right? Oh, that video is going to do numbers. Video's at 7,500 views in 36 minutes. Welcome, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good Monday. Not Monday. It's Friday. I'm having a day. All right, here's the thing. We brought up Abdi fairly recently. We can bring up Grippy Toes. Let me just open up something real quick. All right, let's bring up Grippy Toes al-Majhul. Grippy Toes, how's it going?
Can you hear me?
I can, but there is some background noise. Is this something that you think you could fix?
Yeah, I think I can.
Would you mind doing it?
Is it better now?
So much better. What did you do?
Oh, it's just my RoboVac. It's making a lot of noise.
Yeah, I got you. I have one of those. So, Grippy, I don't believe in God. Do you?
I do. I'm a Muslim.
Okay.
And I do believe Islam to be the absolute truth. And what I mean by that is that Islam is just the message or communication from this God, because the way I would define God is, apart from being the fundamental truth that exists, that's necessary for existence, I would also define this God to have the capacity to communicate to mankind. So otherwise, I don't find the utility in any other definition of God.
Yeah, okay. That checks out. So why should I believe that that's true?
Why should you believe? I don't know. I don't know what your presuppositions are. Are you looking to arrive at the truth?
Yep.
Okay.
I like to believe things that I've justified reasons for. So, I believe that 2 + 2 is 4, and I believe that the sun exists.
You believe 2 + 2 is equal to 4 because you have absolute certainty, or because it's more likely?
Well, in the case of mathematics, you can write down proofs. Now the question is could I be mistaken about the proofs? I guess in principle I could, but that's the likelihood is vanishingly small.
Yeah, just want to clarify how we understand evidence. So anything that raises the probability of a given proposition is something that I would count as something that I would accept to be true. I don't need absolute certainty.
Wait a minute. So it's not just that you want to raise the probability of something, you want to raise the probability to some threshold, right? Like you could raise the probability from 1 to 2%, and then presumably you wouldn't still accept that as true.
In a dichotomy, I would say, yeah, over 50 would be a threshold for me. Because
okay, I mean, that's perhaps where we differ. Like, I tend to be pretty agnostic about things unless I have maybe 80 or 90% certainty, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, so I don't see a distinction between 51% and 99%, because it's a dichotomy. Either God exists or doesn't.
Because if you put your faith in, you believed, I shouldn't say put your faith, if you believed the thing that was only had a 51% chance of being true, say, every single time, then you'd be wrong almost half the time. So, you know, I'd rather just be like, I'm not so sure. I'm agnostic about the thing. Unless it gets to, if it gets to like 80 or 90%, I'll be like, okay, yeah, that's enough for me to believe. But look, that's just a personal preference. It's not really relevant to the conversation.
Yeah, no. So I would like to dismiss agnosticism in the sense that I don't think truths are unknowable. Truth by definition is knowable, and
It's not my claim.
I don't. So you're not an agnostic?
I'm not an agnostic about God. But I was saying that with regards to any given claim, depending on how certain I am, I'll either not believe it, I'll be agnostic about it, or I will believe it.
Okay, but when it comes to God, you're not. It's for me. What I'm saying is it's an impossibility for someone to be an agnostic about the proposition God existing or not existing, because it's not a the scope of evidence does not imply that you're looking for some future experiment to happen. The scope of evidence is already available, accessible to people of all walks of life.
That assumes that the evidence is sufficiently compelling to everybody or equally compelling to everybody. That assumes that everybody's heard the same evidence. That implies that everybody cares the same amount about the topic so that they become invested enough to look into it. Like, there are plenty of people who are agnostic who are just like, yeah, I don't know. I don't take a position on it. And that's like fine.
Okay. So then at that point, I would just say
that's not my position anyway. So it's, you know, not relevant to the conversation.
Yeah. I think we both care then if God exists, right? We both care about it. Cool. So I would start with the idea that something exists.
I agree.
Then I would trade that, you know, truths exist. I'm starting off with that presupposition
that truths
and
exist.
Truths aren't. Yeah.
Okay. What do you mean?
Either truth exists or truth does not exist.
Sure, but like there are different senses in which a thing can exist, right? Like that'd be like saying either Voldemort exists or Voldemort doesn't exist. Like, I mean, that's true. It is a dichotomy, but the question is like, in what sense? Right? Like,
in what?
Voldemort exists in a fictional sense. Voldemort exists as like concepts in human minds.
How do you define Voldemort? Like, what is that thing?
Voldemort's the bad guy in Harry Potter.
A bad guy in Harry Potter. Yeah, so if you define Voldemort as a fictional character,
that's what Voldemort is. What the
word refers to. Well, it depends how you define it. Like, if you define it to be an actual human being or whatever it looks like, an animal that's made up of carbon atoms, then it's a possibility that.
But it's not. Voldemort points to a specific idea or Voldemort points to a specific concept, and that concept is like this guy from the Harry Potter books. And so like Voldemort, saying that Voldemort doesn't exist, it maybe is a true statement, but there's a sense in which Voldemort exists, in the sense that like there is a concept that the word points to, and that concept exists in human minds. So perhaps, so all I'm saying is be careful, because like I would say that if numbers exist, they exist in a very different way than trees do.
No, but let's talk about Voldemort. Like, is it logically possible for Voldemort to exist in some other universe?
Perhaps.
Right.
That doesn't mean that Voldemort actually exists, though.
Yeah, but other possible universes are possible, right?
Obviously.
So it implies that. So, I mean, with that type of logic, we can just walk away saying that God is God is logically possible. Therefore, end of discussion. But I'm not going to do that. You know, I like to have a more.
It wouldn't be particularly successful either. So I'm glad you're not going to do that.
I mean, so
surely you don't think the modal ontological argument is particularly strong.
What I think is that atheist philosophers have conceded that God is logically possible. The question is,
I can name a philosopher, an atheist philosopher, who wrote a paper on exactly the opposite position. So,
you somehow find contradiction in the definition of God? Is that how you're gonna?
No. So I could say that God not existing is logically possible, and because God either exists necessarily or doesn't exist in any possible world, by it being logically possible that God doesn't exist, it follows that God doesn't exist. Right? It's an exact symmetry of the modal ontological argument.
Well, how would you justify it saying, how do we justify the set of contingent things that exist
What?
existing?
Do we justify the set of contingent? So
it,
that's a completely separate question, not related to anything that I just said. If you want to talk about like, you know, some sort of PSR kind of argument, we can, but it's not really related to the modal ontological argument, which you were implying.
Worlds.
So did you?
Because you mentioned possible worlds, right? So
Yeah,
world
that's that.
by,
I was just
nature.
I was just talking about the things that you were talking about. You were making a modal ontological argument.
Well, possible worlds would include things like contingent things and necessary things, right?
They can, sure.
Okay. So yeah, but anyway, going back to truth existing.
So do you mean truth exists in the way that numbers exist, or do you think that truth exists as like some independent thing on its own? Like, are we talking about like capital T truth or lowercase t truth?
What do you mean independent? So I would say truths are a necessary, like it's a necessary framework for us to like access anything. Like in order for me to make a claim that truth doesn't.
So are you saying truth as like an object, or as like some kind of object, whether it's abstract or concrete, exists? Or are you saying like there are things that are true? Because those are different statements.
There are things that are true. Yeah.
Okay.
There are
things
that are true.
I mean, like, I'm a nominalist, so I don't think that there are things that are true, but I think that there are propositions that are true. I just don't think I just don't think of propositions as things. But yeah, I'm on board with that. I think that propositions can be true, propositions can be false. Sure.
When you say propositions, you don't see propositions as things. How are you defining thing? Like
an object?
Thing is anything that has.
Yeah, I don't think it has like ontological status.
A physical object.
No, propositions. I don't think propositions have ontological status. I don't think that they have like existence. I don't think that they exist as an entity.
Okay, like so like a necessary truth, like the laws of logic are not ontologically.
I don't. When you say a necessary truth, again, you're conflating a thing being true with capital T truth, right? So when you say a necessary truth, what you really mean is like this proposition is necessarily true. Is that what you're trying to say? Or are you saying that like there is this like object called truth, and within that object lives the laws of proposition, or the laws of logic?
I don't see the distinction, to be honest. I mean anything that's independent of human subjectivity is true, right?
Okay, maybe I can clarify the distinction. So you can have the idea of, or you can have like the concept or the idea of redness, and that's different from a thing being red. Redness doesn't have to exist in order for things to be red.
Yeah, but things are red not inherently, right? It's just the reflection of the
okay, I can use a different adjective if you want. We could talk about bigness versus a thing being big.
Okay.
So bigness doesn't have to exist in order for things to be big. Right? In the same way that truthness, or capital T truth, doesn't have to exist in order for propositions to be true.
I'll have to think about this. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Because bigness is just an attribute we assign as human beings to something that's big.
Yep.
Okay. That's fine. So you're saying if collectively we come as a conclusion that the sun is not big, right? That would mean it's not big.
Well,
like,
look, so
I'm trying to understand.
There can be universal subjective things. There can be particular objective things. There can be universal objective things or particular subjective things. We can be wrong about our assignments of things. in the sense that, you know, a word has meaning and then we incorrectly use the word to describe the thing. We can be mistaken about our connection between two concepts. Whether or not people choose to assign things in a certain way, that doesn't mean that the concept is not something that you know, the concept of the sun being big is not like a meaningful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we could just decide to redefine all of the words, and then sure, yeah, then like if we redefine all of the words, then that hasn't really changed anything meaningful. It's just changed what the sounds that we make, but I don't think that's really the important part of the discussion.
Okay.
So how do you get to God from, say, there are things that are true?
Yeah,
or there
so
are
God's
propositions that are true?
existence. So it would entail or follow that God's existence is either true or false.
Yep.
Through rational inquiry, through logical reasoning, or through empiricism.
Sure.
These are the only two sources we have. So this is where I would dismiss agnosticism, because God's existence is knowable in principle. It's not a unknowable proposition.
That's a claim you would have to justify, right?
Yeah, if sufficient evidence or valid reasoning cannot establish either of those two positions, then it's an unknowable proposition.
Right.
Okay. I think I'm presupposing that I have valid reasoning and sufficient evidence to even.
Well, right, but that's the thing in contention.
Yeah, because I presuppose I have logic is valid. I'm presupposing that rational inquiry is a good tool.
So it can be the case that like logic is valid or that rational inquiry is a good tool. That can all be true. That can all be totally fine. And there can still be things that are unknowable, right? Like, for example, it might be the case that it's unknowable what is beyond the observable universe. Now, you know, who knows, maybe technology will develop in the future that'll allow us to, but it just might be the case that is in principle unknowable, even though we can use rational inquiry, we can use logic to deduce, to make deductions and so on. So all I'm saying is that like the claim that like there is no such thing as an agnostic, like obviously that's not true. You can just go ask some people. And the answer that you'll get to all your questions is you're like, I'm not sure, I don't know. That's what an agnostic's gonna say. And so, you know, I don't know why you're coming after agnostics. I'm an atheist, not an agnostic.
No, because we usually end up in at a point where we have to kind of throw in the phrase, "Oh, we don't know," right? That's where I'm trying to get away with.
So as long as we agree that knowledge doesn't require certainty, then I'm not going to say I don't know that God doesn't exist, or I don't know that God exists. If I did have that position, I would be an agnostic. I'm not an agnostic. But there are things that I don't know. Like I don't know what's beyond the observable universe, for example. And so like,
but it's not unknowable.
Some answers, I mean, I'm making that might be.
There's a distinction between unknowability and not known at this point, because like things beyond the universe, or let's say 500 million years ago, if there was a leaf that fell in the Amazon forest, right? In essence or in principle, that fact is knowable.
Okay. You were distinguishing. Okay, I see how we're talking past each other. I understood knowable, like in principle knowable, to be something like there is like there's something that you can do. There's some collection of facts that you can gather that would lead you to a conclusion one way or the other. I didn't take it to mean that there is some hypothetical or perhaps logically possible collection of facts that it is logically possible for you to obtain that would lead you to the conclusion. I took it to mean a kind of physical possibility, perhaps even more restrictive to like it's possible for like an individual person to do it.
No, I meant both logical and physical. So yeah, even if you give someone infinite time, that fact will be unknowable. So that's what I mean by unknowable.
Well, okay, so it could be the case that and you know, we need to know more physics to do this, but it could be the case that regardless of how much time you have, if the universe keeps expanding forever, that we will never be able to know what's beyond the observable universe.
Okay.
And so in that case, it would be unknowable, but that's not, but we don't know that for certain, right? So anyway, I agree that one can at least come to reasonable conclusions about whether or not a God exists based off the information that we have. I think that we have enough enough pieces of data to, you know, either, you know, to come to some kind of conclusion. We don't have to remain agnostic, but I respect people who do because they just don't want to think about it too much or whatever. So,
Yeah.
okay, so then what's the argument against atheism rather than the argument against agnosticism?
Yeah. So getting to atheism one step at a time. So the way I would define God here is a theistic, or I'm a Muslim, so I would define God to be the Islamic definition of God, where the belief about this God does matter to me because of the consequences for my beliefs and actions, right? So I'm not defining God to mean some deistic or pantheistic God where you know there's no relevance to what I do or what I say or how I live. So that's why this truth matters. I mean, it's just a side point.
I agree that it matters
I
if
think
it's true.
important.
Sure.
Yeah. And I do believe that the existence of God requires an explanation. And that's where I would say I would grant that this definition of God is necessary.
You haven't given
because
me a
it's,
definition. Oh, are you giving it to me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead then.
Yeah, so ultimate explanation for reality is either dependent or independent. If it's dependent, then neither, you know, if it's dependent or contingent, it requires further explanation because it changes, it has restrictions, it's finite. And the ultimate explanation or necessary thing would not require any further explanation. Therefore, it's independent.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Sure.
so from that, I would say the God that I ought to worship has to be independent,
Okay.
because it's not
The
bound
question
by.
is the independent thing a god? That's the burden that you have right now.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's where that's how I would start off with the definition of who God is.
You haven't given me a definition. You just defined a necessary thing, or you just defined an
I mean,
independent thing.
Yeah, I mean that's the definition of God that
It's not the
I'm
Islamic
using.
definition of God.
Yes.
No, it's
One
not.
of
God has 99 names, right?
No, more than that. So one of them is wajib al-wujud. That means a necessary existence.
Yeah, but that's not all God is. That's the point. The point is God has a lot of attributes beyond just being necessary. There's the beneficent, the merciful, the king, the most sacred, the giver of peace, the infuser of faith, the guardian, the mighty one, the all-compelling, the dominant one, the creator, the evolver, the flawless shaper, the great forgiver, the all-prevailing one, the supreme bestower. Like, there's, like, this God that you believe in is not just some independent thing. It is so many things. It has so many properties. And so if you want to defend the God, if you want to be a Muslim, right, then the God that you're defending, the God that you that you're defending ought be the God that you believe exists. So, like, I could grant you that there exists some foundation or some independent aspect of reality, and that has nothing to do with God. It has nothing to do with the God that you believe in anyway. And, you know, many atheist philosophers would agree that you can believe in an independent thing and still be an atheist. So that's not enough to get you to God.
Yeah, that's when you get into revelation and claims about revelation. You look at different religions that make the same claim, and you're exhausting all your logical possibility on, you know, if you're a rational human being trying to ascertain truth, which out of all the religions out there, including atheism, deism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, which one of them using sort of like a process of elimination, Bayesian probabilistic type of framework where you are going step by step. So one of the properties of God I would expect is that he is one rather than two or three or four.
Why?
Because well, I accept precepts like Occam's razor, so I don't need more than one of the same thing to explain the same data. If one thing can explain the same data,
why couldn't they be different?
Because it's an unnecessary redundancy that doesn't have
well, it's not redundant if they're different and they explain different things, right? Like, and I'll just give you a hypothetical. Not that this is something I think is true, but like one could imagine that there's the god of the physical world and the god of the mental world. One of the gods necessarily explains, and it's independent, why there's physical stuff at all. And the other god, again, necessary and independent, explains why there's mental stuff at all.
Yeah, but if you have one god that explains both physical and mental, why do you need it kind of trumps all of the gods that require
okay, so in your view, fewer gods is simpler?
Yeah.
Okay, so why not just have 0 gods and then not require any at all?
Yeah, so 0 gods wouldn't explain why we have a set of contingent things that exist. You just
wouldn't hold the position that the ultimate foundation is a contingent thing. You would say that the ultimate foundation is a necessary thing, and it's not a god.
Oh, you can't just do that. I mean, when we observe from a first-person subjective opinion or a point of view, we see the things that are contingent.
Okay, there can be contingent things that are dependent on a necessary thing. In fact, that's what you believe, right? It's just dependent on a necessary thing that's not a god.
Necessary thing that's not a god.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm not interested in any definition of a necessary being that has no entailment to my existence.
The necessary thing would entail your existence. Because it's necessary and it's the foundation for all of the things.
In terms of communication, in terms of having the capacity.
Okay, well, you don't have
intelligence to.
You don't have to be interested in it in order for it to be the thing that exists.
Yeah, but this is why I clarified in the beginning that the way I'm defining God is not a deistic God. It's not a God who has no capacity to communicate.
Look, okay, so
I'm not interested in any truth about
maybe God. I'm not making myself clear. I'm saying the option is, so you're saying Occam's razor gets you to one God instead of 2. I'm saying Occam's razor gets me to atheism instead of theism.
It doesn't though. Like that's the whole point. Like, it doesn't.
Rather than just like how you said one God is simpler than 2 gods. You have one necessary God that's simpler than 2 necessary gods. I would say that 0 necessary gods is simpler than 1 necessary god.
Yeah, but only if 0 gods has the same explanatory capacity. It doesn't.
Sure.
I didn't move from.
That's the claim that you have to prove.
Yeah, but I didn't move from like 2 necessary foundations to 1 merely because 1 is numerically smaller. I moved to 1 because 1 is sufficient to do the explanation for me. So making the second.
So that's fine, but then you'd have to rule out that 0 necessary gods can explain the observed reality.
Well, the distinction is redundancy versus necessity. It's not just.
How do you know that or what is the argument for needing a necessary God rather than just some necessary foundation that's not God? What's the argument for that?
Yeah, a necessary. So I would agree that a necessary foundation is not automatically God.
Right.
So let's call it X, whatever, not God. So we've established that X as a necessary foundation. Now the question is what the next step is if you're rationally inquiring into things. What properties must X have to explain the contingent reality we're observing? That's where the argument to God begins.
Yeah. Okay. So then, what's the argument?
Okay. So X is necessary. Otherwise, X itself requires an explanation. X is independent and uncaused. X is not the contingent physical universe.
Oh no, hold on. That's an assumption. Why do you think that the physical universe is contingent?
Because in my argument, physical reality consists of states or configurations that could have been otherwise. So those states cannot themselves supply their ultimate sufficient reason.
So it's not clear to me at all that they could have been otherwise.
Okay, I mean that's where I think we differ, and we have to kind of get into more in-depth understanding of why you think that the states and configurations that we see in the observable universe could not have been different. Can the constants could the constants could have been different or
I
no?
don't know. It's not clear to me.
Yeah. So if you're claiming, are you claiming that every fact about physical reality is metaphysically necessary? That no physical different universe was
It
genuinely
could be that
possible?
every physical fact or every physical fact is metaphysically necessary, yes, but it could still be the case that they are dependent on the universal substrate, for lack of a better word. So you can have dependencies without contingencies, for example.
Dependencies without contingencies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean, I can grant you, for argument's sake, that every physical fact is metaphysically necessary. But then my question simply moves down to, you know, what is the universal substrate then?
I would
And
call it the universe, or the
is it
sum
generally
total of
ultimate?
physical reality.
Okay. Is your substrate dependent on anything more fundamental?
No.
Yeah, then you've arrived exactly what your first stage cosmological argument was trying to establish. You know.
Well, we're certainly not at a god. We're certainly not at a creator.
Yeah, but we agree
So,
that there's some ultimate necessary independent foundation.
for the sake of
Call it
argument, I mean,
X.
like,
I'm
I'm
not. I'm not calling.
actually kind of, I'm not so certain of this. I think that you could perhaps have an infinite chain of contingencies, but I'm happy to just grant that you can't. So yeah, I'm just happy to agree. Yeah, okay, we agree. There is a necessary foundation to reality. Okay, why is that necessary foundation of reality? The creator, the great forgiver, the extender, the reducer, the all-hearer, the all-seeing, the impartial judge. Why is it all of that stuff rather than just like an unthinking universe?
Well, that's my. Well, that's the secondary part of the whole.
Yeah, okay, I'm asking you to defend it.
Well, that's through revelation. We can
Okay,
establish that the Quran is the word of God.
So go ahead.
The same entity that created the universe has all these other attributes that he's
Okay.
revealed about him.
So make the argument for it.
So yeah, I would begin with saying that. So you're trying to ask me for Islam being the true religion,
Or really any kind of theism, because we're still not even at any kind of theism.
I think
or
we
deism,
did.
for that matter. No, a necessary foundation isn't theism. That's consistent with atheism. You can be a priority monist about the universe.
Yeah, I mean, when we get into the properties of X or whatever you define as the necessary substrate, what properties does your X have? Is it unknowable or knowable?
What properties does it have? I mean, the properties are just all of the physical reality stuff. So, like, you know, at this moment in space-time, at this location or at this event in space-time, a star, or at that event in space-time, a star explodes. That would be one of the properties of the thing. And at this other event in space-time, a fox is born, and at, you know, it has this volume and that much gamma radiation in it. Like, yeah, it's
does it have a mind?
Properties. No,
it doesn't have a mind.
No, okay. It has minds in it. Doesn't have a mind.
Yeah, so then I would ask, you know, why does a non-conscious fundamental reality produce a first-person conscious experience? How does it do that?
Great question. I don't know.
Is that, I don't know if because it's unknowable, or is it knowable?
I mean, it might be knowable. I think that's a question for philosophers and neuroscientists. But if the being that you believe in, I can just, you know, parody that. How does a purely mental, non-physical thing give rise to a physical experience or a physical reality?
how does it do it? I mean, that's not
Yeah.
for an all-powerful. Are we conceding that it's an all-powerful entity?
I don't know what you
If
mean
it's
by
an
all powerful.
To create physical matter from non-physical matter.
Yeah, but how does it do it? Like, how does it happen?
Yeah. How is the howness important? I don't
Well,
think
you
so.
asked me how a physical universe gives rise to a first-person subjective experience. So, unless you don't think the howness is important, then I'm totally justified in asking you the how.
No, I do have a justification. It's an
Okay, so
all-powerful
how?
entity.
How does it work? No, you're just telling me why it's able to do it, not how does it work.
Yeah, I don't think the howness is critical.
Okay,
here.
I don't think it's relevant for me either. Then I don't think that asking how the first-person subjective arises from the physical is relevant. So I guess we're at a stalemate then about the problem of mind.
Is it just an emergent property of?
I don't know.
The
I don't know the howness. I don't think it's relevant.
Yeah. So I would say that I'm not saying that a mindless necessary foundation is logically impossible, but what I'm asking is which hypotheses better.
Oh, you better be.
explains-
By the way, you better be saying that, because if it's not logically impossible and it's a necessary foundation, then that means that it's logically possible, which means that it's just true that you have a mindless necessary foundation, which means that the necessary foundation does not have a mind because it's mindless. So you wouldn't want to say that it's
but
logically
it would
possible.
fail if you compare it to in terms of explanatory power of why.
Yeah, but once
exist.
you agree that it's logically possible, then it's logically necessary.
A mindless being
Yeah.
creating consciousness.
Just a mindless foundation to reality. It doesn't matter whether it has explanatory power. Once you agree that it's logically possible, then it's logically necessary. This is the S5 modal axiom.
Yeah, my issue is your X is fundamentally non-conscious, right? But somehow
Okay, yeah, what's the problem?
consciousness. It creates consciousness, intentionality, and rational agents. Mine
Yeah.
is fundamentally intelligent.
Yeah,
making
but it's not physical, right? And yet it somehow makes physical stars and planets and plants.
Yeah, but it's making intelligence less surprising. I mean, it's more palatable for us to understand that intelligence. We understand intelligence, and to assert that the thing that created the universe has no intelligence is just kind of like
Look, I'll give you a branch here. I would say that conscious experience, first-person subjective experience, is better explained by a being that, or by a purely mental, non-material foundation. However, by the same token, a physical existence is better explained by a non-mental, purely physical foundation. So it seems like we're at an impasse regarding, the hard problem of consciousness, right?
Yeah, I mean that would be symmetrical only if mentally, if mentality and physicality had the same explanatory relationship for their effects, but that's not precisely what.
How does the purely mental explain the physical?
Because a mind is capable of representing and intending states that are not themselves mental. I can conceive of a physical object.
How? When you conceive of a physical object, the thing you're conceiving of is not physical.
Yeah, I mean, I can conceive of physical objects, specify its properties and intentionally cause like physical arrangements through action. But
how are you causing anything physical?
How am I causing it?
Yeah. How are you explaining that a purely mental thing is somehow able to cause physical things?
Through intentionality and free will.
Intentionality is still just a mental thing. How does that get you to the physical? Look, so all I'm doing is I'm parodying back at you. In fact, it's not even a parody. This is exactly an argument that's made against dualism, that there are mental things and that there are physical things and that somehow they're connected. The point is there's an explanatory gap between the mental somehow causing the physical or vice versa.
Well, I mean, that's actually proving the point for dualism, because my intentionality.
No, this is a
So
problem
when
with
I
dualism.
when I
Dualism can't connect the two separate realms of objects, right?
I mean, that proves the soul exists. Like
No, it
my so
doesn't. It proves that
it does.
dualism is nonsense.
So my subjective experience of picking up this coffee mug in front of me 10 seconds from now, what is the thing that's causing it? Is it the bosons and fermions in my brain
Yeah.
cells?
Yeah.
No, they're not.
Oh, that's
You
okay.
think
Prove
that the
it.
physical, brainless physical atoms are making me intentionally pick up my coffee mug?
Yeah.
That's not how, at least from a first person subjective experience, I know that there's something supernatural acting on my physical ability
Wait a minute.
to
So your
to make
position is
intention.
your position is contingent on just being like, I know there's a supernatural thing. I just know it. Like, surely you don't think
Yeah.
that would be a forceful argument against an atheist, right?
No, I mean the first person subjective experience is the strongest form of epistemic access we have.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And your claim is that it's supernatural.
Yeah, what laws of physics are acting on my intentionality? Can you name one law?
That's not my burden. You made the claim that it's supernatural.
Yeah, it's self-evident. I don't have to.
It's self-evident that it's supernatural. It's self-evident that there's no that it's physically impossible to explain subjective experience.
Yeah, the what law of physics is acting upon
You're shifting
my
the burden.
intentionality?
To say that
Yeah,
it's not, to
therefore-
say that it's supernatural is to say that it's not even in principle possible to explain it physically. And when I challenge you on that, it's not just enough for you to say, oh yeah, well, you can't come up with an explanation. That doesn't mean that it's physically impossible, or that it's logically impossible to explain it physically. Just because I don't have an explanation doesn't mean that there is no explanation.
No, okay. So you're appealing to some future experiment?
Nope, I'm not appealing to anything.
Out...
So what I'm appealing to is that we have very strong evidence that the physical world is real. We have very good reason to reject dualism. And so if you have strong evidence that the physical world is real, and you have strong evidence to reject dualism, then you have strong evidence to also reject idealism. Which gets you to the conclusion that the subjective experience is merely physical.
Okay, so yeah, forget about the supernatural claim. So what I'm saying is, what is self-evident to me is that the subjective experience exists.
Yep,
now we have
I
to
agree.
ask what ontology best explains it. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah, and I just gave the argument for why the ontology that best explains it is the physical.
What did you say? That bosons
that we have strong evidence that there
push...
are that we have very strong evidence that the physical exists, that there are physical things, right? We have very good reason, like it's not evidence, it's like perhaps deductive or abductive reasoning to reject dualism. So there's three options, right? You have some sort of physicalism or naturalism. You have some sort of dualism, which says that, or you have some sort of physicalism or naturalism. You have some sort of idealism, which is just the idea that there's only the mental, that all of the physical is merely an illusion, it's merely contained within the mental. And then there's dualism, which is that there are mental things and that there are physical things, and that they talk to each other, perhaps. So we have good reason to reject, we have good reason to think that physical things exist. We have good reason to reject dualism. And so if physical things exist, then either physicalism or dualism is true. And if dualism has been rejected, then that leaves you with only physicalism.
Okay, so agreed. If I claim that consciousness is necessarily non-physical, that's my burden. So I'm not assuming that, but if you claim that consciousness is entirely physical, that's your positive metaphysical claim, right?
Yeah,
and
so I laid out the argument. Do you want me to give you the details about why we think that, or why you have good reason to think that physicalism is, or that physical things exist and that dualism is false?
Yeah, do you affirm that your subjective experience is identical and reducible to a wholly grounded physical fact?
I don't know if it's reducible. I didn't make that claim.
Okay.
But
what explains the entailment from third-person physical fact?
I don't have to know what I don't have to know what explains it in order to come to the conclusion that there is an explanation, right? You can do non-constructive deductions. For example, we have good reason to think that there's at least some connection between the physical world and the mental. Take, for example, the case of Phineas Gage. Do you know about Phineas Gage?
No, I don't think I've heard of it. What?
Okay, he was a railroad worker in like the 1800s. And he was generally like a really nice guy, very kind, very patient. And then there was an accident where a railroad spike got shot through his head and like destroyed part of his brain. And he survived, you know, miraculously he survived, but his entire personality was completely different. He was irritable, he was short-tempered, he was not particularly kind, he was impatient. And so what we see is that a person's mental experience changed dramatically as a result of a physical change. And so if these were at least not, if there was no physical thing that is able to cause changes in the mental, well, then we wouldn't expect to see that kind of change being made. So this is at least evidence in favor of some sort of physical reality having an impact on the mental. Now, the second fact is that, or the second argument, the second part of the argument is that because if the mental is a different kind of substance than the physical, if there are mental substances and physical substances, then it's not clear at all, and in fact this is argued in the literature quite frequently, that there is no way that the mental can affect the physical without itself being physical. Because the things that affect physical things are exactly those things that are physical. I.e., there's no way to connect them in a causal way. This is the idea of physical causal closure, that you can't really just randomly violate the laws of physics, that all physical mechanisms or all physical events that happen are going to be caused by other physical things. And so if that's the case, then it just follows that the mind, whatever the mental stuff is, it can't have any influence on the physical brain, it can't have any influence on the actions that we take. And so from Occam's razor, we can just dismiss it because it doesn't do anything. So that's the gist of the argument. I may have not summarized it super properly, but that's the rough idea.
So you're making an inference from brain changes to mental changes. Therefore mental states are physical. I mean,
that's one part of it. The other part of it is that there's no.
I don't think it follows.
There's no mechanism because of causal closure. There's no mechanism to go from mental to physical.
Yeah, I don't think that follows. What I would say is that mental functioning is strongly dependent upon, or correlated with, and it's causally affected by brain functioning during our lifetime, right?
If you accept causal closure of physical reality, that can't be the case. And we have good reason to think
brain
that
dependence,
causal closure is, or that like natural stuff is causally closed.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think we went off on a tangent between mental, physical, but
you were the one who brought it up.
No, I wanted to go there, but yeah. So I think there's a disagreement there. I would say that essentially all of neuroscience. I think altering the brain alters the mental functioning, right? Yep. That's true. But I think what you've done is you move from dependence to identity. So in the Phineas gauge.
No, I didn't. I used dependence to indicate the existence of the physical, and then I used the problem of causal closure to indicate that there can't be a separate kind of substance.
I don't think it establishes a consciousness is identical to brain states.
I didn't say that it's identical. That's only one version of physicalism about the mind. That's identity theory, and I'm not making that claim. There's like a whole plethora of physicalist interpretations of what the mind is. All I'm saying is I'm ruling out the possibility that there's a separate substance that is influencing the brain.
Okay. So I guess what observation would distinguish the brain is necessary from normal embodied mental functioning? So
I didn't understand the question.
From what consciousness, so from consciousness is nothing over and above physical brain activity.
Sorry, from consciousness is what?
is nothing above and beyond physical brain activity. What distinguishes
Well, I mean, it could be emergent.
that?
It could be like a physically emergent, like a distinct feature. Like that's a thing that can happen. And then
circular.
no,
Again,
it's
that's
not
circular reasoning.
not circular
You-
reasoning at
so if
all.
you
It's just a
need-
different
if
kind
you-
of thing. Not
if you
every.
need a
Not,
brain-
I'm not granting. I'm not granting like maximal physical reductionism.
I mean, where else do you get consciousness? So if your brain is not emerging,
I'm not
that
granting
consciousness.
like maximal reductionism. Like
I mean, the
my
burden's on
position
you
is
to
my
do it.
position is not just that for anything in the world it can be fully explained just by explaining the like the individual features of its constituents. You can have emergent phenomena which are, you know, not decidable. The emergent phenomena can be undecidable given just the, you know, the underlying substrate.
So it's okay. So it's some sort of non-reductive physicalism.
Could be, yeah. I'm not granting reductive physicalism. In fact, the position that I started this argument with, that there is a foundation to reality, is explicitly the opposite of reductive physicalism.
Yeah, but then you're still
kind of
stuck with
monism, actually.
You're still stuck with defining what emerges mean. Like, are you saying that once physical
Emergence
matter
is not a
reaches-
particularly hard thing to define. It's just that there are properties that exist at one scale that don't exist at another scale and can't be fully explained by them, or can't be reductively explained by them. That's all.
So are you saying that, you know, once a physical matter reaches certain configuration, subjective consciousness necessarily exists? Like, is that how it works? Like,
I'm not making a necessity claim. This is at least like a possibility. So if you have a specific configuration of matter, then yeah, presumably that would be the case if this emergence is actually what's happening here. But like you could imagine that you like move one single atom and that maybe breaks the thing. So like I'm not making a claim that like you need an exact particular arrangement or that you can't have multiple arrangements that give the same kind of thing and so on.
yeah, I mean, so obviously there's a gap between physical configuration, let's say C, and getting to first-person experience.
Yeah, and that first person experience could very well be an emergent thing. It's a new kind of property. Like look, just by studying the positions of particles, you will never learn about entanglement. Entanglement is like a new kind of thing, and I'm just using this as an analogy. Entanglement is a new kind of thing that you will never learn about just by knowing the position of every particle. And yet, when you put a bunch of particles together, you get quantum entanglement. In fact, you only need 2. But just knowing, say, the positions of each of the 2 particles will never tell you about the entanglement between them. It's non-reducible.
Yeah, so I can grant that the human consciousness is intimately associated with the functioning brain, but every consciousness we've empirically studied is human/animal.
Sure.
So the data establishes a relationship between biological consciousness and brains, right?
Yep.
They don't really establish the universal proposition that consciousness can only exist when generated by a brain. That's a more stronger claim.
No, but it is evidence. It is evidence of that, right? It's not a deductive claim, but it is definitely evidence.
Yeah, so saying that every observed embodied human mind has a brain doesn't deductively establish that.
Yeah, I never said
necessarily
it did.
Every possible mind acquires a brain.
I never said it did, but it is
So
evidence. It's evidence.
I mean, this is all going back to the whole idea of like what explains reality the best. So all these gaps that you have in your
What gaps? And for every gap I have, you have a gap.
No, I don't have a gap.
Yeah.
God is a conscious, self-aware being that allows human beings to have access to the conscious experience.
How does it do that? How does God do that?
Why does the howness matter? I mean,
because you've been grilling me about the howness of how the physical stuff gives rise to the subjective experience for the last 20 minutes. Apparently, it matters when I give a foundation, but it doesn't matter when you do.
Yeah, in my case, it's not special pleading because I'm actually justifying with the definition of God.
Did you just special plead about special pleading? In my case, it's not special pleading because my special pleading is special.
No, but I have a justified case where I'm defining who God is. That explains reality better.
It doesn't explain it though. You haven't explained how.
It does.
Then
It
how?
does.
Then give me the explanation for how.
I started from a necessary being,
Mhm.
and I explained why this necessary being needs to be conscious and self-aware.
Well, you haven't actually made an argument for that, by the way. But you've asserted it, and then you're saying that if it is conscious and self-aware, then it explains XYZ thing better than a physical necessary being. But
yeah, it explains
but there's a
intentionality.
gap, right? There's a gap. You can't explain how it is that the purely mental God thing can give rise to the physical.
So you're saying that under idealism, even in atheistic type of idealism, you cannot have a impact physical world with your intentionality, which is purely mental.
If you're an atheist idealist, you don't think that the physical world exists at all.
Okay.
Which you could be. You could be an atheist idealist, and then just take all of the things that I said and replace them with their mathematical equivalent, with their mathematical description, and then you end up at the exact same conclusion. You still don't need a god. You can still explain this by the purely mathematical. No problem there.
All right.
But I don't take idealism to be the case, and I don't think that you do either. So it's probably not worth discussing it.
Okay. All right, man. It was nice chatting with you. Maybe we can continue, but I have some work.
All right. Take care, Griptoes.
Thanks,
Later. I feel like we didn't actually get to the argument for God. We kind of stalled out with the special pleading. It's crazy that you can just send music with a small donation. From Victor Gabriel with 550 joules, thank you for the stay hydrated. All right, let's read some super chats, then we'll bring up another guest. From Matty Meister with the $5, I noticed that even a god without attributes is commonly referred to with he, him pronouns. Do you think this is worth correcting people when debating? Not really. I think it's just like, you know, we call ships she. You know, there she blows. Like, I don't know. Like, it is obviously like there's some inbuilt misogyny there, and there's some inbuilt like patriarchy there. But like, it's just such a common part of the parlance. It's not worth arguing about it. It's not substantive. From Matty Meister again with the $5. Why does the contingency argument often have personification baked into the conclusion? Where does it leave out naturalism? Oh, well, that's exactly the argument that I was making. That's why I was doing that. Oh, there she blows refers to whales. Okay, well, whales are also given she, her pronouns, I guess. From Super Pizza with the $5. Gage miraculously survived. Miracles admitted. Checkmate atheist. True. You got me there. From Ethan Wallace with the $5. How successful do you think analytic idealism is at blending the analytic tradition and scientific realism with a mind-only universe? I don't find it particularly compelling. And from Z-Corp Alpha with the $10. Who said God loves you, nitwit? Look how nasty you are to God. Crossfire burning. Oh, I don't blame a higher power. Well, thank you for sending $10 for saying I'm going to burn in hell. I appreciate you, Z-Corp Alpha. Yeah, paying for an L is weird, but I'll take it. Look, I'm not going to complain. Z-Corp Alpha, if you want to come up, we can actually, like, we can come up and we can talk about it. All right, let's bring up Mothman. Mothman, come together with your hands. I hope I got those words right. Mothman, you were in the box. I know that's Spoon Man. I was doing a bit. Okay, looks like Mothman's not coming up. Let's bring up a guest from Discord. Bring up Heavenly Momo. What a name. Heavenly Momo, how's it going?
Me? How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Heavenly Momo, do you believe in God?
I believe in God, and first I want to say what an honor it is for you to allow me to come up and speak with you today, Dr.
All
Blitz.
right, we can skip past the glazing. All right, Heavenly Momo, you
Well,
believe in
see it as
God. I
glazing.
don't.
I mean, I think that.
You're just gonna make
Okay,
me blush.
do you
That's all.
hold the? Do you hold the positive? Is it a positive claim that God does not exist, or is it just a God claim that you haven't seen enough evidence to believe in God? Like, what would be your position?
I kind of take them to be one and the same. Like, I'm not claiming certainty, but what I am claiming
Okay.
is that I think that there are good arguments against the existence of a God, and I think that there aren't good arguments for the existence of God. So on balance, I am led to the conclusion that, you know, on the balance of facts and arguments, that God doesn't exist.
Okay.
So I can
Well,
lay
I
out
have
some of the
about
arguments that I think work against the God.
sure. Yeah. If we can tackle them before you like, if we can tackle them one at a time.
Yeah, sure. And so these are generally going to be inductive. They're going to be evidence-based rather than deductive. So
Okay, cool.
everything that we look at in the world around us seems to be causally closed. So anytime that you have a physical thing happening, that physical thing seems to be the result of some other physical thing that happened or is happening, right? Think of like, you push on something, it falls over, it fell over. That was the physical thing. It happened because another physical thing happened to it. You pushed on it. And so, in fact, not only is this like kind of probably true, this is like the entire foundation of the entire scientific endeavor, that the universe, that the physical world that we live in is causally closed. And so, given that a supernatural God would be violating this causal closure, I think we have good reason to think that no such thing can exist, because all of the evidence, I'm not saying necessarily, what I'm saying is that all of the evidence is in favor of causal closure, because that's all of the data that we have. On another,
okay,
so we can go over that if you want first, and then I can bring up another one.
Yeah, I'd rather do it one at a time because, like I said, I do think you're a brilliant person, and I know I could get overwhelmed, and we want to tackle one
Sure.
thing at a time. So dealing with causal closure, we don't know whether or not the universe is an open system or a closed system, or whether or not there is some kind of external force that's at the bounds of the universe somewhere, or in some innate deeply physical level is interjecting into reality. What I actually want to ask about is this definition of physical that you're using, because what we find is that in the history of science you have methodological naturalism, and then
Mm-hmm.
somewhere in methodological naturalism it was promoted to metaphysical naturalism. So the conversation went from, we're only going to test things uh, that we can pretty much prove, or to pretty much anything, all things that exist are physical. And so I don't know if that heightening from we're only going to test things that are natural to the only thing that exists are natural entities. I haven't seen a just validation of that in the history of science.
I'm not making this is not a deductive claim. I'm making an evidence-based claim, an inductive claim, if you will.
Yes, sir.
So
Okay, and so with this
objection
definition
seems like it falls
that
flat.
you're using, well, it's not necessarily an objection, it's a point about the history of science. So, like, in the history of
Fine.
science, like, you're saying that we operate in a closed system, and then in this closed
No, I'm
system,
not
there are
assuming
only
that we operate
physical
in a
things.
closed system.
You said everything is causally that. Oh, you
Causal
didn't
closure
say.
is not the same as, like,
So,
okay, if you mean closed system in like the standard physics sense, I'm not assuming that. But if you mean closed system as in like it's
okay.
causally closed, then sure.
Okay. So with this definition of physical that you're using, so I've been researching this for quite a while about the definitions that are used in physical and the ontological status of something like the nature of a wave function, right? So
Sure.
a wave function is a mathematical abstract entity, but
Careful.
yet we know that.
Careful. A wave function can be a physical thing that's described mathematically. Those aren't necessarily.
And how you use so it doesn't have physical descriptors, right? Even though, like, it doesn't have size, weight, shape, color, like the things that we
Neither do
typically think about
electrons.
when we think about physical object. Huh?
Neither do electrons. Don't have size, shape, weight.
Yeah,
I mean, they have
yeah.
mass, but
No,
they don't
I
have size
agree.
or shape. But that doesn't mean they're not physical. That doesn't mean that they're like
Well,
abstract
that's
mathematical objects.
what I would actually like. Part of my argument is like how are you defining physical? Because if you define
Just
physical
stuff.
as all,
Maybe
yeah, you know what I mean?
maybe it's
Because
easily
if by
describable
that
by
you
laws
could
of
almost
physics.
you could almost like say that spirit is still stuff. It's not the stuff that's the
Is it
nature of,
describable
say,
by
an
laws of
atom.
physics?
It could be.
Okay,
In
then I would
principle, there's
consider
no
it. Then
reason why it
it's
couldn't.
part of the physical. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
But see, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're expanding the definition of physical to mean
I
all
haven't
that
given you a
exists.
definition of physical. besides
Oh,
just
you're
stuff,
using
and
it
that
in
could
that sense.
include spiritual stuff, as long as that stuff is describable by laws of physics.
So I want to make sure that I'm very, very clear. Let me pause this real quick.
Please.
I think what I'm trying to explain is like the ontological status of what you're like. If you say that spiritual stuff is physical, just like so. Usually in the history of like theology and the history of philosophy, you have these binary categories of physical versus or things are spiritual. If you say that that spirit can even be like pretty much pushed into the category of physical, if it's describable, then all you've done is made physical equivalent with existence itself. So
No,
anything that exists would automatically be physical.
no, that's not the case. Because I said if it's easily describable by laws of physics, not just describable at all, right?
No, so what would be the separation between something being describable and something being describable by the laws of physics? I mean,
Well, like, look, when I say something is red, that's not a law of physics, but it's still a description.
well, I mean, like you're talking about a specific wavelength of
No,
a
I'm not. I'm
specific like
talking about redness.
electromagnetic.
I'm talking about
Like, but
redness, not a
redness,
specific wavelength. If I was talking about a specific wavelength, then I could, the
no,
features of the
but
light.
redness,
But red is not the same as a wavelength.
what we call red is described like on the electromagnetic spectrum of visible light. Like
So
that's an
are you?
actual there's an actual
So
frequency.
the statement that you
So
just
you're just,
made is equivalent to saying that the mental is physical. By the way.
but no, that's actually the statement that you would be making if you're saying that as long as it's describable by the laws of physics, then it's physical. But I'm saying like the history of science, like that's just not how history has
Okay.
described these terms,
Sure.
and the reason that that was
I'm using
elevated,
the word in a
it
more
was
modern way.
changed.
I'm not relying on a historical definition.
And in this more modern way, it encapsulates like anything could just be shoved into the definition of
As
physical.
long as you can describe
Uh,
it with laws of physics, sure.
but that's just not like how that's not how language really work. Like you have to like you have to be able to to ascribe physical descriptors to objects for it to count as physical. Otherwise, you're just equating physicality with all
What
that
is a
exists.
physical descriptor then?
A physical size, shape, weight, height, those type of things. Those are physical descriptors.
Though, so you didn't give me a definition. All you gave me were examples. And surely those are not exhaustive.
No, it's not exhaustive, but I would say that those are a good starting point. Like,
Okay, yeah, that's a fine starting point. And then you can expand it in a way that becomes more broadly applicable, so that you can make sense of what the laws of physics are. And the laws of physics are the kinds of things. This is kind of how we can define what is physical. What is physical are those things that can be described by the laws of physics.
and so the laws of physics themselves, if they're not describable by like the whatever,
Yep,
then
they would
would
be
be
they could
like
be like conceptual, for example.
conceptual, and that'd
Yeah,
be non-physical.
yeah. Although, like, I'm not sure if they're non-physical at the bottom. I'm not a reductionist in that way. In the same way
Hmm.
that I would say, like, if I'm running like Google Chrome or something on my computer, Google Chrome is not like a physical thing, but it kind of is like made from physical stuff, you know?
Would you say that Google Chrome isn't a physical thing?
Well, it's not like an object, right?
But it's something you
It's
interact
like a
with.
pattern, right?
And then underneath the pattern would be,
Would be just
like
be physical
the
stuff, like transistors and all that
yeah.
stuff. So like I would say that concepts are like
But the thing
patterns.
about the Google Chrome example is going to be like, that being an integrated information system,
Mm-hmm.
so even underneath the transistors and stuff like that, there was a mind that carefully arranged everything in order
Oh
to
well,
produce
and
it.
we're way far from there.
Okay. So causal closure.
All I'm saying
Uh,
is that like laws of physics could be better understood as like patterns, Now, whether or not they're patterns that are intrinsic to reality, or whether they're patterns that we build conceptually, or like patterns that like arise in minds and brains, that's a different question. But I don't have to have the position that laws of physics are like things that exist on their own, rather than just patterns and things in physical things.
Actually, I was going to say, so do they have an ontological status independent of like us, like what the laws of physics, before
I'm quiet on that. I kind of go back and forth.
But how will we get here to where we are if the laws of physics weren't already in operation independent of our existence?
Look, so you can hold the position that things have dispositions, i.e. tendencies, without holding to the position that those tendencies are laws of physics, right?
Could you explain that more?
Yeah, so like laws of physics are like equations, right? Now, a thing could have a tendency to do something. Sorry?
I mean, they're described by equations.
No, the laws of physics just are equations.
Well, yeah, if that's the case, then like you were asking the last caller, how do you get from this inert equation, to
the equation isn't the fundamental thing
or having an effect? Well, even if it's not fundamental, then you still have it has causal power. Like the laws of physics, gravity still happens.
No, they don't have causal power. They're descriptors.
Well, yeah, I would. But what are they describing? Like
stuff.
But the relations, though, like the relations would be actual.
Yeah,
or are you saying that the relations
it depends on your ontology of patterns. I'm kind of agnostic on this issue of whether or not the only things that exist are the things, and then the relations are kind of patterns that emerge from them, but they don't have their own status, or if the patterns themselves have like their own ontological status. I'm not sold on one way or the other, but I could probably be convinced either way.
Yeah. Well, I was just recently listening to a debate about whether or not laws of physics are actual things, descriptors versus proscriptors. And I do take the position that they're proscriptive. That
I don't think like any physicist will agree with you on that.
I'm not quite sure about that. I mean, I think Sean Carroll holds the position that they are descriptive, but I know that there are physicists who do hold that they're prescriptives. But I mean, to hold that they're prescriptives I think that's part.
To hold that they're prescriptive kind of presupposes, well, okay, you could, I guess, hold that they're prescriptive and still be an atheist. You could just say
so
that,
that's what I was about to say. So
like you could hold that position. I just don't think that there are any physicists who have that position. And maybe there are,
right?
But it's not a mainstream view.
I mean, how many like physicists do you know that
I'm a physicist?
Atheistic? I said how many?
How many do I know that aren't atheistic?
Yeah.
I usually don't ask that question to colleagues. I know at least 2 that are Christians. And I don't know how many that I know that are atheists.
And so I would say that the descriptive stance of the laws of physics would be consistent with an atheistic paradigm. That when you say that they are prescriptive, then we are and I think that a mind does instantiate it provides a good grounding for the things like I have a few things written here: fine-tuning, integrated information systems in biology, the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics, human rationality, the relations, and the ethics. But
all right, well, we can go into any one of those if you want. We probably played out this one.
We were dealing with some of the. I mean, I still have about 30 minutes. I have.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
So
that's
we want to close on the argument that you made against God's existence, or I guess you could say, the evidence that you said we live in a causally closed system.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that my response had to do with the definition of physical, and that because you're saying that physical objects.
To be clear, causally closed doesn't imply that the stuff that is causally closed is physical. I just assume that we agreed that physical stuff exists. Do we not agree that physical stuff exists?
Yeah.
Okay, if physical stuff exists, then the causal closure is just about whatever you think is physical.
The physical world would be like a manifestation of a more intangible reality. And so I think that quantum mechanics gives us hints of that, even if we say that quantum fields are physical in some sense, although that's what I would actually push against. I would say that no,
well,
I mean
they're not physical. What are they?
They're non-physical. So they can be non-physical.
So like what are the kinds of things that are non-physical? Like, what is it like in the definition that you're giving? What does it mean for a thing to be physical? And then what does it mean for a thing to be not physical besides just not that? Like what other kinds of things are there besides the physical? Like generally there's like the mental. People assume that there's like the mental exists. Sometimes people assume that like there's this abstract realm. But like, so where do, you know, quantum fields fall into those categories if they're not in the physical?
And I mean, you're absolutely right to, I mean, you can use a more modern definition of physical, but if we go back to like right before the discovery of quantum mechanics, or right before J.J. Thomas discovered the electron.
Sure.
Thomson, thank you. Discovered the electron. The way that it was usually, all things that weren't physical were spiritual. It operated as a binary. And so once it was shown that atomism,
I don't think that that's true,
physicalism,
by the way. I don't think that that was the take. I mean, like, surely they didn't think that like numbers were spiritual.
Well, they
at least going as far back as like Aristotle, the idea of like numbers existing, that they were non-spiritual, they were abstract.
So that's a third category. So you have the spiritual, the mental,
and then there's the mental. The spiritual and mental aren't necessarily the same thing either.
Not necessarily, but I think that
they're usually distinguised.
Physical would kind of.
In fact, spiritual is not even that used. Spiritual is not even used that often, I guess, by philosophers.
Not anymore. But they're like, so if you go to like,
so why are we relying on like old reasoning when we could just use modern stuff?
Because the way that the word physical itself is defined, it actually just excludes anything like mental by definition wouldn't be real. So if you did find some underlying mental substance that wasn't physical,
so it
then
could
you would
be
just
that
redefine it and say that it's physical.
No, the point is that there could be mental stuff and there could be physical stuff, and the mental stuff just can't be described by laws of physics.
Yeah, that's completely possible.
And then that wouldn't mean that the mental stuff is physical.
Yeah, that's completely valid.
And so like okay, backing up, in your view, where do quantum fields fit if they're not physical?
I think they would lean more towards the type of thing a mental thing that can instantiate and operate with physical things like atoms.
So you think that a quantum field is mental?
I wouldn't say that it's purely mental.
It can't be like half mental, half physical, right? Like these are mutually exclusive categories.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if I agree with that they're mutually exclusive. I think that a thing can be physical. No, it can be, let's say if I use the word spiritual, it can be so if we think about in terms of like frequency and density, something can be, the way that it's used in the literature is like something can be light enough that it's still spiritual, but it can be dense enough to also operate with like a physical thing too. And so what you have is this kind of medium. So it's like an intermediary thing would be a thing that has both attributes of, let's say, the mental and attributes of the physical. So it's not completely mental and it's not completely physical. It's that one thing that can operate with the mental stuff.
Can you give me an example of a thing?
Operate.
And
let's say it depends on how we're defining the term. So like if to me something physical has to have something has to have physical descriptors, like that's inbuilt in a physical thing.
So if it has any physical descriptors, then it's physical?
I don't know. I don't know if I would say any physical descriptors. This is a good question that I wouldn't say if it was any. I wouldn't say any, because
so
if that's
what
the case,
physical descriptor could it have where it still wouldn't be physical?
I think the position that I'm holding is that it can be physical and that it can, let's say, use the word mental.
You haven't given me a definition of physical.
Things that have physical. Well,
it's not all things that have physical descriptors.
No, things that have the descriptors of size, weight, height, shape. Because that's the way the word
so
has
light
always
isn't
been
physical
used
then.
Historically. Huh?
So then, in this view, light is not physical, which I take that to be a reductio. Like that's obviously not the case. Obviously, light's physical.
In what sense?
In the sense that it uses. In the sense that historically, people like
Mhm.
Newton and Leibniz and Young and can't name other names, but that's 3 people from like the 16 and 1700s who were fighting about what physical nature light has. And then we discovered that there's a particle that makes up light and that it can bounce off of things.
Photon.
Of course it's physical. It can be in places. It can transfer energy. Of course it's physical.
And so you said that light can bounce off things,
Yep.
being it has a position,
Yep.
we'll say, and it has a position and a momentum simultaneously.
Well, it's a little bit trickier than that, but it definitely can have one or the other.
What does that suggest about like, to you, what does that suggest about like underlying reality when you have these things that and I know that like ontological versus epistemic knowledge regarding the position and momentum of let's say a photon or an electron is still like something that's an open discussion, but what's your position on what does that suggest about like, does quantum mechanics and space time emerge from something more fundamental, or
Yep.
does it give
If you've
you
listened
any,
to
or is
Sean
it just a
Carroll,
brute fact?
my position is very close to Sean Carroll's. So if you've listened to Sean Carroll's position, then you'll basically know mine.
Mm, okay. So does I guess I think I'll ask about because you gave me one which I think is a great. You said that this. Do you mind re-articulating yours, because I don't want to have
Yeah.
a straw man of
The
your
only
position.
it's fairly straightforward. It's
We've
just
only
that
been on for one.
all of the things that we observe in the world, like all of
Uh-huh.
the things that you and I can agree exist, all of those things, they all have this property of being causally affected by other things that we can agree exist. Like, the door opens because I pushed on it. The sun exists because of gravity pulling gas particles together, or gas atoms together. All of this stuff has physical explanations for why things are the way they are. And so at least we have good reason to infer that this is just a feature of reality.
But again, that pushes me, because you say something like gravity, but one of the criticisms of gravity is that like it didn't
There are no
have
criticisms of gravity, by the way.
surely there have been, like, so for example, is space-time physical?
Whether or not space-time is physical, I mean, I would take the position that it is, but whether or not space-time is physical is not related to the phenomenon of gravity.
Well, I'm not. It's not
The phenomenon
that
of gravity is a
itself
physical
isn't it?
phenomenon.
So, but that's interesting though. Like because like you can't hold gravity. You can't.
Yeah, you can't hold light either. Doesn't mean it's not physical.
No, yeah, but that, to me, that suggests that there's more than just a physical realm, and like,
Or just
and I
that
don't. And
physical
again,
things are not
I'm not
just those
sure.
things that you can hold. There are plenty of things that you can. Can you hold wind? No, but wind is physical.
So in the history of science, when you have like this right here is, and I know that. See, here's the thing about atheism. It's a choice, and so like you can always reject it. You can always, so like, let's say if one of the postulates of atheism was that atomism is true, like and I know that's not your position. We live in a modern time, but if that's one of the postulates, and then that postulate is proven false, you don't find people. They just go running and saying that, okay, well, I guess since that postulate is false, then we'll adopt the God hypothesis. No, you find that people will find means and ways to reject God, even if the proposition that that God
I
is
could say the
real
exact same
is
thing
true.
about. I could say the exact same thing about the theistic position, by the way. In
I think
fact,
so too. I think so
yeah.
too.
So like I don't think that that's a reasonable criticism.
I don't think
Anyway,
it
you
was a
wanted to talk
criticism
about.
as much as it was just a point of the fact. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to ask about integrated information system. So, what to
I
you
don't know what those
provides
are.
the best an integrated information system?
Is it just like a computer?
Yeah, that's an example of
Okay.
an integrated
What about it?
information system. Yeah, so does something like an integrated information system where you have specified complexity, you have components which each one interact with the other in order to produce a specific function, is that better explained by the existence of a mind, or is that better explained by the existence of accidents?
Um, it's not clear to me, right? And by the way, accident, it's not accident or mind. Those aren't the only two options, right? You could have like
You
a
you would take
deterministic
the
process that
necessity.
inevitably would lead to an integrated information system, even if there's not a mind behind it, right?
Sure.
So
Mm,
it's
no.
not a true
Mm-mm,
dichotomy.
mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. And so
Did
I
you just
think
say
that
sure and then
in the
mm-mm?
end, mm, no, I didn't say sure and mm-mm. I'm vehemently I'm saying mm-mm on that
Okay.
because when you talk about a deterministic, so like if you take not that Einstein was a theist in the Christian sense, but if you
He
take
wasn't a
like
theist really
Einstein
in
and
any
determine,
sense, by the way.
well, he said he believed in the God of Spinoza, but
The God of
that's kind of like
Spinoza
a physical
is not
is a
theism.
physicalist God.
No, it's not even theism. It's not theism in any sense of the world. Spinoza's God is maybe pantheism, which is not theism. But honestly,
It's not specifically Christian. It's not Christianity, but it
it's
is
not
still like
theism at all.
pantheism is still a form of theism.
No, it's not. No, theism is a specific position that there is an agent that is responsible for, perhaps causing or grounding the universe, and this agent is personal in some way. It is a person,
Okay, so if
and
you're
it
gonna
also
use that
typically has some
very,
other
very,
properties as well. But
if you're gonna lose, use that like um definition, like so you got the broad, so you, like that's not necessarily what theism means, but that is one way in which it's
I
used.
mean,
So I would say that in a broad sense that yeah, pantheism is theism, but if you're specifically talking about like in a Judeo-Christian or if you're talking about in the Islamic context, then no, pantheism wouldn't be
in the
considered
philosophical
theism.
literature,
It would be
theism
like
is what I
deism.
described. No, it's deism is not pantheism isn't even deism. Again, deism assumes
Well,
a
you're,
personal
you're
a personal agent or a personal mind that is responsible for creating and forming the world. Pantheism is none of those.
well, how are you defining pantheism? Because I mean, I'm
Pantheism.
looking here
So
and it's
Spinoza's
saying
version of the God, or more precisely, the version of God that Einstein believed in, was something like a personification of the universe.
that would still be a form of theism.
No, it's not. I mean, it's a semantic dispute, so it probably doesn't matter. But like, if you go look
Okay,
in the
yeah.
philosophical literature, you will find that
I mean, I'm looking.
pantheists,
I'm looking at
pantheists
Stanford
and theists are not sharing worldviews here.
I'm looking at Stanford's Encyclopedia of Philosophy.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it just and it's going to go along the lines of it depends on how you're defining theism. So it does turn into a semantic dispute. But theism also can specifically believe in the belief of a personal God, which I think would more
That's what
accurately
theism
provide a
is.
justification.
Look, we're
It can
look.
be. You can use it in a broad sense, or you
You
can
could
use it
use it
in a
in a way
semantic sense.
that nobody else uses it, I guess.
I mean,
Which is
that's
fine.
the broad sense of the word theism. So it would
Okay, and
be
the
like
broad sense of
theism
the
would
word
be any
physical
God
is just
exists.
something that's describable by the laws of physics, but you didn't like that.
Well, I think that the reason that definition came into being came after the existence that like atomism, for example, wasn't true. It was changed to push back what it means to be physical to encapsulate, these new entities that clearly weren't physically it couldn't be described by that old definition.
Yeah, and the reason why the definition of theism shrank was because of the obvious distinctions between the beliefs of people like Spinoza and Einstein and the beliefs of people
Yeah.
who called themselves theists.
Yeah.
And so, as a result of further philosophical inquiry, the definitions changed in the same way that as a result of further physical inquiry, the definitions changed.
If you can give me 1 minute, I apologize.
Sure.
Or would you prefer I just I apologize about that.
You're fine.
Yeah, so where were we in the conversation? I think you were
We were just doing a semantic
explaining the
argument, so it's
distinction
probably not
between
relevant. But I don't even know why you brought up Einstein at all. But
I think we were talking about Einstein and determinism, and then
oh yeah,
I kind of got
okay,
off
sure.
on a
Yeah,
different
that's fine.
tangent.
We don't have to
So
derail.
if you let's say that, yeah, scratch the semantic part, like a determinant a necess let's say if you do agree with like a deterministic view, that kind of only leaves a necessitarianism, and whether it's non-mental necessitarian or whether mental necessitarianism provides a better justification for the things that we see. If we find that, let's say, an integrated information system is genuinely like baked into the laws of physics themselves, then knowing what does produce, or from our understanding of what
Yeah,
can produce
that would be
integrated
inductive
information systems,
right. That would be an inductive argument for um all of
mental
the
necessitarianism.
if you can justify that all of the all, or perhaps most, actually you'd have to say all of the integrated information systems that we encounter are created by minds, and then you could find some integrated information system that's foundational to the universe, then yeah, that would be an inductive argument for God. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that's one of the arguments that's being made in biology now, with like cells, and well, I'll just say the cell. I won't say life forms as a whole, because if you can get to a cell, then I mean you pretty much, and following evolutionary theory, then you get to more complex life forms. And the way that I've read that it's posited, and they use the most recent models, I think, is RNA world synthesis from RNA, and what you have is it's not enough time for, I guess, for accidents or mistakes to occur. And something like the self-replicator would have had a very high it would have had a very high rate of making mistakes, so much to the point that within 500 years, that's not enough time to have enough quote unquote good things to happen. And so to me, that makes me believe that it is just baked with, so life itself, if we accept that, that it is a product of a evolutionary process, then evolution just wouldn't be random.
So
Evolution and the existence of life forms would be
are you
baked into the
suggesting? So
fabric of the
are you discussing
universe.
abiogenesis, or are you discussing evolution?
And so, well, to get to
'Cause these are
evolution, you
different
first have to
things.
go through
Yeah, sure.
to get to evolution, you first have to go through abiogenesis.
Sure. And
And
so
so,
are
based
you just
on
suggesting that
what,
abiogenesis can't happen,
no, I'm
like,
saying
naturally?
that if no, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, then please
Well,
clarify.
I'm not saying, I'm saying it can't happen I'm saying it can't happen accidentally. Like there's no
You
time.
mean
There's not enough time in
it
the
can't happen just by the laws of physics and chemistry?
no. That's not what I'm claiming. I'm claiming that if you grant the laws of physics, I'm saying that it makes more sense, given the short time constraint in which the hypothesis proposes that the first cells evolved, that
Short time
baked in the
constraint?
laws of physics
Where did the
says
short
you
time
would,
constraint come from?
because well,
You think it was
in
only 500
evolutionary
years is how much
biology,
time you have?
no, 500 million years, 500
Yeah,
million years. But that's
500
like
million years seems like
that's
it's
like
plenty.
no, it's not though. Like
I mean,
that's like
biologists
that's
seem
like
to
a
think
blip.
so,
And
or origins of life researchers seem to think so.
no, and I can actually show you that that's actually an open discussion if I can pull this back up.
And I just want to
And
double check with you. Do you think that the majority of origins of life researchers are people who think that there's no physical way that life could have formed naturally?
that, well, I'm sure they think that that is plausible. I don't think
Yeah,
that you
so
can really argue
plausible is all you need.
personhood from stuff. I mean, yeah, I think it's logically plausible. I don't think physically it's possible that it could happen accidentally.
How are you distinguishing physically accidentally with something else? Like, if it's
So let's
physically
say,
possible, we agree it's physically possible, right?
not for it to happen accidentally. It's physically possible,
I don't know
sure.
what you mean. Look, is
Yeah.
there a configuration of physical matter that could give rise to life through merely physical laws? Like an initial state of physical matter that if you leave it alone for 100 years, you will get a cell out at the end. Or a billion, or 500 million years, or whatever.
I'm not sure. I would say I'm agnostic on that
Okay.
specific thing.
Well, if you're
I'm not going
agnostic
to
on
say
that,
that
then
it,
it seems like that there's not an argument for or against it, at least in your view.
well, yeah, I'm not saying that it couldn't happen naturally. I'm saying that it couldn't happen accidentally. So
Where's the
the laws of
accident
physics would
involved?
be
If you
like
have a particular initial configuration, and then
yeah, I agree. I
and
agree.
that
No
initial
accident.
configuration will
Yeah,
lead to some outcome, then where's the accident?
yeah, I agree. Yeah,
But
there's
it's
no
just purely
no accident.
there's no intervention necessary then.
Well, you would need something to set the initial conditions.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that I think is, I mean, that's an open question. We don't know exactly what the initial conditions that are required are, but absolutely what
Sure.
we can
And
say
what
is
I'm
that
saying is that like if
there's
you
enough stuff in the universe that it's guaranteed to occur by accident, if you will.
no,
Yeah. How many planets do you think are in the universe?
no, I mean like no, and I would hope that at some point in time I would actually be able to bring you some math because I'm sure that you'll be able to relate to it. I'm still working out some of the
Hmm.
numbers, but I'm it's the based on the canon of how the universe evolved and how the Earth evolved and how it's speculated that life evolved. There's just not enough time for anything
According to
accidental to
who?
happen. Everything. So, for example, like you take the process from the hot dense state of the universe
No, let's just
to
take the
now.
process from like a planet that's hot and has atoms on it. We don't have to worry about the whole evolutionary process to get here because we were talking about abiogenesis, not the Big Bang and not stellar formation and stuff like that.
So you're saying from a hot planet with
You
atoms
have
on
a
it,
hot
what?
planet, it's cooling off, it just recently formed. You give it 500 million years to form life. You think that that's not possible in our universe? You think that there's just not enough time?
No, I think there maybe I'm leaving out some stuff that's being missed. I wanted to find this though because it I think that if I'm not gonna say that that's impossible. I don't have a reason to say that that's impossible. I think that
Okay.
if God set the initial conditions of the universe and then information integrated information systems are just baked into the universe to happen, then it makes more sense if that was happening on the account of there being a mind versus um, something non-mental.
But look, if you just take a random initial configuration of the universe, assume that it's, sufficiently close to what we have, but like just a random variation of it, because, obviously if it's very, very different, then like, the outcomes might be different. But take something that's like meaningfully distinct from what we have, but still, perhaps similar in character. I don't think that we have any reason to think that that world wouldn't give rise to life.
Would that be because again, all the laws of physics themselves have already been configured?
That's
See what I'm saying?
that's an
I'm saying that
assumption.
it's the how so?
You're assuming that they were configured by someone.
Well, we'll say are the way that they are. I think
Yeah,
that's
okay,
fair.
so the
No,
laws
I
of
think that's
physics are
fair.
the way that
I
they
think
are.
that's
I don't
fair.
have any reason to think that they could be different.
Okay, so then from the laws of physics to abiogenesis and then eventually life, like does that make more sense when you actually look at it? Does it make more sense on an accidental random approach,
I
or does
don't
it
think that
make
the
more
laws of
sense
physics were
that
accidental or
under-
random.
I don't either.
Okay, well then, why are you imposing a random approach on my view at all, if that's not my position?
Hmm. So what is your position? So would you say that you're a necessitarian?
Maybe some sort of geometer. I think that there's like geometric
What is it?
reasons why the world is the way the world is.
What does that mean?
You know how like there's a geometric reason why pi is 3.14, right?
Yeah.
It's not that like this is like some substrate of reality that makes this true. It's just that's a
Yeah.
feature of geometry. And so, you could imagine a similar thing for the way the world is. Like that's just what it means for pi to be
So would
pi.
that mean
Pi
that
is
there
the
is like
ratio of a circumference to a diameter, and so maybe just what it means to be a universe is to have certain properties.
I think that's an interesting perspective. That's not usually the kind of like that's not. I would say that position isn't the position of a lot of other atheists that I've had conversations with. So that's interesting. I guess I should probably have just started by asking what are your positions on some of these things.
That might have helped. Okay, though.
Yeah, I think that probably would have been better for conversation. You know, and honestly, I do, and you're gonna call it glazing, and I don't mean it as
I'm gonna plug
glazing,
my
but
ears. I'm gonna plug my ears. No, no, don't do it.
one of the reasons why I was willing to come on and talk to you because you seem like you're actually you can have a rational conversation with you, and it wasn't just like hate, you know, and and yeah, but so that's pretty much integrated information system. I think that from a necessitarian view, if there are integrated information systems that are like baked into that like they're just this is the they're baked into the fabric of the universe themselves, and to me it makes more sense that that derived from a mind than from something non-mental, and then that's
Yeah,
just pretty much the
I'm
end
just
of
not so
the
sure.
argument.
I think that,
Okay.
and you know, and here's where my skepticism comes from. There was a time, 150 years ago, during the Industrial Revolution, where we were like, ah, yes, the clockwork nature of reality is evidence for God. And, you know, there's like a divine clockmaker and all of these, you know, it's God placed the gears in place and set it in motion and it evolves forever like that. And now, you know, 150 years later, 200 years later, we're like, ah, the universe is like a computer and God programmed the computer. It just seems like this is a historical thing that's happening. It doesn't seem like it's connected with what's true. It seems like that we're kind of applying the things that we're very familiar with and the things that are like dominant in our lives and trying to use that to reason about the world. And I'm just not convinced that that's reliable.
Analogy. I don't think that the clock analogy, and so an analogy can only go. It can be that an analogy only goes so far. So like the computational universe, like computation is a feature of reality. And if we say, well, that's not all that reality
that's not the
is.
case. That's
Well,
something
I
that you're
think that
imposing on
Stephen
it.
Wolfram would disagree. I think he would.
Stephen
I mean,
Wolfram is a crank.
whoa.
He's an unfortunately very smart crank, but he is a crank. Nobody in physics takes him seriously.
The dude had his PhD at like what age 18?
Yeah, he's unfortunately very, very smart, and then he went off the deep end.
Oh wow. Oh, I haven't heard that perspective. Usually, whenever you hear people talk about Stephen Wolfram, like they speak so in a very, I mean,
He's very smart. He's also a crank. They're not mutually exclusive.
wow. And so, what makes him crank?
His ideas are crazy and not grounded in reality.
Man, no, I would actually. Stephen Wolf. I'm gonna have to write that one down.
Like, just go see if how much his works are cited in the physics literature, and you'll find that it's like 0.
Yeah, that's yeah. I'm gonna have to write that one down. So
Okay.
I mean, I guess so. If then I mean, irreducible computation then isn't gonna you wouldn't take that seriously.
Yeah, I'm not convinced.
Well,
I think that
would that be an ad hominem attack though? Like you're saying he's a crank, but like
well, no,
the
I mean,
Ruliad is a beautiful concept.
So it's an insult. I don't find his arguments convincing. They don't seem like they're based in anything. So, you know, maybe I shouldn't insult him. I'm sure he's a lovely guy. Maybe he's not. I don't know. I don't know him personally. But like, he has all of the features of a crank. He just also has a PhD. Like, I get emails from people who say similar things, from people who say similar things that are like retired electrical engineers, who's like, I've discovered how to unify reality. And like, when I look at what Stephen Wolfram writes, it's like the same thing, just coming from a guy with a PhD.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. So, yeah, that's my position on like integrated information systems are foundational. I think that they're foundational, so it makes sense that on a necessitarian view that a mind instantiates all of grounds all of those things, and then from that mind, we have what we have. And then fine tuning in physics, the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics, human rationality, relations, and ethics.
Well, you can't just dump all of
and
them because we didn't have a chance to talk about them. That's not
Okay,
fair.
well,
I'm gonna name 50 arguments for atheism and not gonna give you. No, I mean we should probably
no.
call
How
it there.
about this? Give me three, and then I promise I'll go and I'll research it, and hopefully we can have more conversation. And then I'm going to end with a quote because it's 12:30 and I have a meeting I got to prepare for.
No, I'm not gonna. So we can. Okay, actually, there's an argument.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it has a name. There's an argument against the atemporality of mind. So if you Google that phrase, you can probably find it. It's an argument against atemporality of mind in particular. There's also the problem of divine hiddenness, but it depends. That depends on what kind of theism that you're arguing for. There's arguments against freedom.
I'm specifically arguing for Christianity. I believe Christianity.
Okay, then the problem of evil. There's the problem of divine hiddenness. There's also the problem of modal collapse into necessitarianism. So you can look into those three, and we can talk about them at a later date.
So divine hiddenness, divine problem of evil.
Yeah, and you can look and say modal collapse.
I think this modal collapse one is new to me. I've
Okay, then I'll get rather than looking at the ones that aren't new to you here, so look into the problem of divine atemporality, or atemporal, the problem of atemporal minds. You can look into the modal collapse argument.
No. That one's kind of familiar to me, and I always think about like the B theory of time, but I know I don't have enough time to get into that. What was the last one? No, it's this last one that I'm not the modal collapse one.
Yeah, the modal collapse argument.
Collapse. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna let you go. Sounds like you have to run anyway. So thanks for being here, Heavenly Mono. I do appreciate it. Heavenly Momo.
All right, thank you, man. Have a good one.
Take care. Okay, cool. I'm gonna read some super chats, drink some water, and then we'll bring on our next guest. All right. Remember, if you like this kind of good faith discussion, make sure to send super chats and support me so that I can overtake Justin the mean or Ian the sardonic. Instead, support Blitz the kind. From Ethan Wallace with the $10. Will physicalism ever narrow down? It has over 200 distinct theories of consciousness, more than all alternative ontologies combined. This massive proliferation suggests a major paradigm crisis. I don't think that having a bunch of ideas means that there's a crisis. I think it means that it's not settled. From Z Corp Alpha with the $10. Think shit, funny till you see hellfire. I appreciate the $10, Z Corp. From Tim Davidson with the $2. Just for Moth Spoonman reference. Of course, I got you. I got your back. $2 from Super Pizza. Appeal to history of science. Prime theist here. It happens quite a lot. From Ethan Wallace with the $5, 54.3% accept or lean toward a non-Humean view of natural laws, 2020 Phil Papers survey. Yeah, okay, interesting. That's of philosophers, not of physicists, for what it's worth. I was talking about physicists. But also, we weren't talking about Humean versus non-Humean, we were talking about descriptor versus prescriptor, and those are different. From Binary Ghost with the $5, of course the laws of the universe were configured by someone. The person who's playing our simulation game did that in the options menu at startup. True! Absolutely true. And from Veronica Cromit with the $5, Christians appealing to Spinoza while also not understanding history of science is what's going to send me to an early grave. Yeah, I mean, plausibly Spinoza would have been an atheist today. That would be my guess. From Mrs. Dog with the $5, are there theoretical laws of physics that a universe could have that would make D&D type magic possible? Asking for world building purposes. There's a guy who does that. There's a guy on TikTok who, like, maybe on YouTube as well, who, like, I think he has a physics background and he's like trying to come up with like mechanisms by which magic can work, but it's really detailed. From Mr. Pacho, thank you so much, bud. You'll be happy to know that in addition to being a goated mathematician, my uncle is also a noted Wolfram hater. He's at a conference now and with a meet and greet, and made sure to let me know he'd be skipping it. That's amazing. I love that for him. From Red Tent with the 1,000 joules for the GOAT trophy. Thank you, bud. I appreciate the support. And from Peter Hollingshead with the $10 and our last super chat for now. All hail Blitz the Kind. We need an unnamed group to write a book about Blitz the Kind, and in 2,000 years you'll be as legendary as Jesus. Thanks for all you do, my man. I appreciate it. Maybe I won't be as legendary as Jesus. I don't know if I want that, though. And we do have some cash apps as well. I think we have at least one. Let me just double check, make sure I don't miss it. From L'Oreal with the $30 for the overtake. Yeah, let's go. We're gonna overtake them. Although, like, account size wise, I think I actually have the biggest account, but attendance wise, perhaps audience attendance wise, I think Justin just blows Ian and I out of the water. But that's okay. It's not really a competition. It's just a fun joke. All right, let's bring up another guest. We have a lot of guests on Discord, but you know, we took a guest from Discord last. So we're gonna bring a guest from TikTok now. Let us bring up Eddie. Eddie, how's it going?
It's going good.
Glad to hear it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Eddie, do you believe in God? Actually, you know what? That's a stupid question. You have a cross in your name.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a Christian, right? I just don't want to...
Yeah, an Eastern Orthodox Christian, yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm not. I'm an atheist, in fact. Why should I be an Eastern Orthodox Christian?
Well, like, there's a lot of, like, different denominations in, you know, Christianity. Like, all these different people, like, just trying to change it in their own way. And the Eastern Orthodox Church has been the same since, well, the birth of Jesus. But that's why
arguably the Catholics were first. I know that that's a point of contention between Catholics and the Orthodox.
Yeah.
But
yeah, like, you know, the schism, like when the Catholics like left the one church, that's like why, like,
I see what you're doing there.
Like, that's why I'm not Catholic. Like, I used to be Catholic, but like I didn't really want to worship a pope, you know.
I don't think that
But, like,
Catholics worship the Pope.
Oh, what do they do? Who is the Pope? What does the Pope do?
He's the Bishop of Rome, right? He's just the most important bishop.
He's just the guy from Chicago.
Well, I mean, yeah, he does like the 6-7 stuff, and he's a Sox fan. But like, no one worships the Pope. They just think that he has like a direct line to God when he's speaking from the papal whatever.
Oh yeah, no, there's no way.
Okay, I mean, but like, okay, I'm an atheist, so I don't believe any of this. So,
But so like, I was just wondering if I could be an astrophysicist and believe in God. Like,
sure, I'm sure that there are plenty.
Okay, that's kind of all I wanted.
Okay,
to ask. Sorry.
You're good, Eddie. Have a good one.
All right, thank you. You too.
Bye bye. And an enormous $100 super chat from Pensive, which is huge. Thank you so much, Pensive. Aren't you a student? Where do you get all of this money? You know what? Actually, I don't care. I'm not going to ask that question. Thank you so much, Pensive, as always. Appreciate your support. I'm a huge fan of the Unapologetic Trio, but if I'm forced to pick, I'm Team Blitz. Let's go. Team Blitz. No, actually, we are... there is no Team Blitz. There is only the Emissary of the Lava Lamp. Appreciate you, Pensive. All right, let's bring up another guest from TikTok because, you know, reasons. Student loans, there you go. Let's bring up Get On My Lawn, rather.
Hi.
Get On My Lawn, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. So I'm a follower of a relatively unpopular goddess called Nahweh, but I'd like to try to convert you.
Sure, go ahead.
Excellent. So my sales pitch, even if that sounds a little mercenary, is that Nahweh can do anything and everything that any other god can do.
Okay.
But what makes the goddess Nahweh special is that she can do all this while not even existing.
Oh. Well, good thing I don't have to believe in it then.
But if you were to convert to
this is
Nahweh,
a troll.
the goddess
This is a
who
troll.
doesn't exist.
It is actually just Na in front of Yahweh. I got duped. I do a bit like Atheismo, by the way, but that's a good bit. You almost got me. Let's bring up Casey from the D. Casey from the D, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. How you
Glad
doing,
to hear
sir?
it, Casey. I'm doing all right. Casey, do you believe in God?
I do.
And I don't. Let's talk about it.
I got you. Yeah, talk about it. I was going through. You guys were 2 callers ago, or 2 or 3 callers ago. You were talking about theism,
Yep.
and I'm on Google,
Yep.
and it says theism is the belief in the existence of a god or gods. But then it also talks about core types of theism, and it lists 4 different versions here.
Yep.
4
sure.
different versions. Right? I would say Spinoza is a type of theism. It is
Okay.
pantheism.
Then theism is consistent. Then theism is consistent with atheism. because Spinoza's beliefs are consistent with atheism.
Well, theism, it talks about 4 different types.
No, I understand that. So when
pantheism,
I'm referring to the language, I'm using it as is typically used in like the philosophical literature and amongst academics. You can say that colloquially pantheism is a type of theism, but then so is atheism.
well, so I just wanted to say that theism means different things depending on the type you're talking about, right? And
Yep,
so I just wanted
sure.
to be more
And
specific.
I'm using it in a
as
way
we're
that
talking.
is referred to in the philosophical literature.
Okay, so I'm not sure what that means because it says core types of theism.
Yeah,
If
so
you're talking about
you were
pantheism,
looking
you
at
can't use it in the context of monotheism, or you can't use it in the context of polytheism because there are 4 different types.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying, right?
Okay.
And,
Well,
and
do you
just
want
so
to
we're
defend the
just
God that you believe in, or do you want to
yeah,
just want to come up and
actually I do.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
No, I did want to do that, but I wanted to do that because I just wanted to make sure we are effectively communicating in the
Okay.
words that we use. We
Are you a
understand what each
pantheist?
other means. I'm not going to say pantheism because I think that's Spinoza. That's not.
Okay.
That's not
Are you
where I'm
a
coming from.
classical theist?
Let's just talk about the pantheism because I would say that God is the energy source of the universe.
Okay,
which
well, I
kinda
don't think
leads to
energy
Spinoza,
exists,
but-
so
Okay, so I would just say because I think we could because we gotta have to kind of talk about it because I use the word energy to describe something and maybe you want to describe it a different way or call it a different thing. That's fine, but I just need to understand your vocabulary so we can talk to each other.
yeah, I take energy
Right,
to
but
be the thing that is described by, the physics thing, the thing that physicists mean when they talk about energy.
Okay, so I would that's fine, but I would say that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, so
I
it's eternal.
don't agree with that.
Okay, that's fine. But I'm just describing. I'm trying to describe the universe in a way that we can talk because there is a thing like voltage and electricity. Some
Mhm.
people will call that energy. I'm not sure what you call it. Okay, but I would call it energy because as an electrical engineer, light is energy. So there's these things we call energy.
Do you?
You say
Okay,
they don't
I just want to
exist.
clarify. I just want to clarify, but just because I want to make sure that we're not like beating around the bush. You don't believe that Jesus rose from the dead, do you?
I think that the whole Christian language has a metaphorical meaning. So in the physical sense that you're talking, no, it's not talking about these physical things. It's metaphorically talking spiritually. It has an ideological meaning that's not physical. So that I'm
Okay,
a
what does it
Christian,
mean?
true
What does it
Christian.
mean that Jesus rose from the dead,
But
but not physically? And then
yeah,
he appeared to
so
his friends, but
yeah,
not physically.
right. Uh, the idea of being born again, because is what you're getting at, is this idea of being born again. This idea of being born again, it talks about there's a physical birthing that we all understand, don't need to describe. You're in your mother's womb for 9 months. And then there's a spiritual birthing that deals with the renewing of your thought process or your mind. So one is a typology of the other. And most people that don't really understand Christianity are always thinking in the physical sense, but not in the ideological sense that physics represents. It's like a toy train and a real train.
Yeah,
And if
so
you're
like,
talking toy train and I'm talking real train, we're not
uh-huh.
effectively communicating.
Right, so like,
Okay.
do you think that Jesus was like a person?
The concept of Christ is an ideological.
I'm talking about Jesus, not Christ.
That's what I'm actually. Okay, so when you say Jesus, there's a
There's,
million people
like-
named Jesus.
Like
who are you talking
a
about?
guy who had a bunch of followers who followed him around in
You-
ancient Judea 2,000
you-
years ago.
you
Do you
do-
think that was a person?
All right. So you're talking about Jesus the Christ, because you're not talking about
Sure.
the 10,000 Jesus that are out
No,
there.
I'm talking about
I'm just being
specifically the
precise.
guy. Specifically, the
Yeah.
guy that had a
So
bunch
I-
of followers around
so-
Judea around 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm actually saying to you that person described in the 4 Gospels is a physical person described in the 4 Gospels. I'm actually saying to you that when you really understand what Bible's talking about, that person is really a typology of a spiritual concept.
Okay.
And so if you're talking physical,
how
and
do you
we're
feel
talking
about
about the
lobsters?
concept, we're talking about 2 different things.
How do you feel about lobsters?
Lobster,
Yeah.
like a lobster.
do you think that
in
there's-
the sea that you eat?
Yeah. The
I'm
archetypal
saying
male
all
dominance of the
physical-
lobster.
Well, I'm saying that all physical things have a spiritual, ideological parallel, and that when you're talking Bible, it's never talking in the physics. It's always talking in
Okay.
the ideological spiritual. So if
So to be
you
clear-
can't walk both sides.
Do you think that there was a physical man, Jesus, that was referred to as the Christ that lived around 2,000 years ago?
Well, so I would say this. Obviously, I wasn't born that many years ago, so I don't
I'm
know
not
for
asking
sure. I
you
don't
to
have any
give. I'm
evidence.
not asking you for
No,
certainty. I'm just
answering
asking you
your
what you
question.
think.
No, I'm answering your question. Did it physically happen? I'm not sure. But what I'm saying is, when I read Bible, it has a ideological meaning that's got nothing to do with the physical. That's what I'm
Okay.
actually saying.
So you're just
when I
avoiding
talk
my
about
question.
Christianity- No, I'm just saying I don't know. I wasn't.
Okay, so
2,000 years ago.
you're not
Didn't
even
happen. I
sure
don't
if there
know.
was a guy named Jesus who wandered around who was called the Christ.
Well, here's what I'm sure of. Bible is.
Do you
is
believe it?
teaching us. I'm answering your question.
Do you believe that it's true that there was a physical guy walking around, or are you just like, yeah, I don't know?
I just said I don't know. What I actually
cool.
believe is that the book is a typology of something deeper. And if
Cool.
you're missing the deeper, when Bible says you can't understand the God of the Spirit, that's actually what it's saying. And most people are trying to understand it physically, and you're missing the ideological concept. So you're missing the whole point.
Okay.
And so so here when I'm here, you asking me, do I believe in God? I'm talking about the God of the ideological or the spiritual, absolutely. But that's not something you're talking about. So
I was just double checking. I was just
double
double checking to make sure that you weren't like secretly hiding your Christianity.
No, I'm a 5,000% Christian as much as I can be, just
Okay.
not in the physical aspect of it.
To be a Christian, and so do you hold to the Nicene Creed?
I'm not. I don't know the Nicene Creed.
The Nicene Creed is
heart,
what
right?
you don't have to know it by heart, but the Nicene Creed is what defines
Why
a Christian.
can't I answer the question?
But well,
No, it
presumably
doesn't.
you've heard it
No,
before.
it doesn't. No, it doesn't define Christian.
Yeah, I mean, it really does.
No, you said it does. But Bible
No,
says
Christians said it does.
Okay, hold a minute. Bible says they were first called Christians because they were followers of Christ. So if you were a follower of Christ, that's by definition
Yeah, and then the
Christianity.
word changed as it became
Okay,
institutionalized.
hold on. I'm just saying the Bible says if you're a follower of Christ, they were first called Christians because they were disciples of Christ, followers of Christ. So that's by definition what it is. Now,
Okay,
men
so
can say whatever.
sorry,
they
who
want
are you
to say.
following?
Christ.
Is that a person?
Christ. Yes. I mean, again.
So the
this
person
term
that existed. So you're following someone who doesn't exist.
No, I'm following a concept. Christ is an ideological concept.
Do you think that that's what the early Christians were following? That they were following a concept?
Absolutely.
So the disciples wandering around, they weren't following a guy, they were following a concept.
Okay. So the Apostle Paul says, we have known Christ after the flesh, but we know him no more after the flesh. So Paul had an understanding that this fleshly person, human.
Did he say that literally or spiritually?
No, he said that literally. It's in the scriptures. You can look it up.
Oh, but I thought that the whole business about the scriptures is that they're metaphorically, ideologically spiritual.
That is the
So how do you know he wasn't saying it spiritually?
That is the point Paul is making. Is that
how do you know Paul was making that point and he wasn't just making it spiritually? How do you know he actually made the point?
I'm reading the scriptures. It says it in the scriptures.
Well, yeah, but it also says in the scriptures that Jesus was a guy who walked around. So I don't know. It seems like that you're awfully sure about what Paul said, but you're not sure about what Jesus did.
No. What I'm saying is all of scripture has two meanings. One is natural and one is spiritual. But if you're trying to understand what God's saying, he never speaks through the natural. He only speaks in the spiritual. So all of Bible is two lanes, right? And so I can distinguish the two because I'm trying to understand what God's really saying is over here. I don't mix them. So when Jesus says, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you can have no parts of me.
No, but when Jesus says follow me, he means like literally follow him, right? Because that's a physical thing.
No, he's not. No, not.
I don't mean like literally like walk in his steps. I mean like follow him.
No,
I'm
but
a person.
that is literally but that is literally following him. And I'm actually saying he's not talking about literally follow behind me. He's talking about the way I think, follow my logic. So that is the spiritual concept. Yes. So now you're understanding what I'm saying, because you can follow somebody physically.
You just kind of misinterpreted what I said and assumed that I was understanding what you were saying based off of your misinterpretation of what I said.
What I'm saying, when Jesus says follow him, he's talking about follow an ideology that he has. What is his ideology?
Yeah, it means follow his ideology, as in he's a person with an ideology, not follow some concept. I.e., he exists as a person in the Gospels.
So
a
what I'm
literal
saying
physical person.
Even if I agree with that point, Jesus, that physical person, doesn't exist right now. So what I'm actually following today is the concept. It's his mindset. Have this mind in you that was also Christ in you.
Sure,
so I'm actually following ideology. But that's the whole point. That hasn't changed.
Yeah, and that ideology is the Nicene Creed, right? That was the whole point of the Council of Nicaea. Is to figure out what it meant to be a Christian.
Love.
No, it's the Nicene Creed.
Oh, no, you said that. Okay,
No,
you're
the
defining it that
Christians
way.
said that. That's not me.
No,
That's
no,
the
no.
Christians.
Listen, I'm a Christian, and I'm telling you, I
You're
don't
not a
define it
Christian.
that
You're a
way.
heretic.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, you're trying to take the Christianity that you want to refute,
This is
and
not
you're
a
trying
me
to define
thing.
it.
This is what the Christians say.
Well, I just told you I'm a Christian, and you're not listening to me. So you're not saying that. I
Look,
just told you I'm a Christian, and you're not
I know
listening to my
you're
definition.
telling me you're a Christian, but the institution of Christianity disagrees with you.
Okay, but you keep saying those words as if that's written down in stone, that this is what Christianity is. No, that's just your perspective. There is no.
It's not my perspective. It's the perspective of the Council of Nicaea.
Okay, but you're saying the Council of Nicaea is Christianity. They're not Christianity. Christianity.
Yeah,
is
yeah,
God.
they are. They're the ones who determined what Christianity is. That was the whole thing.
There's 41,000 denominations of Christianity. Right?
Yeah,
Nobody
and all
has
of them except the
monopoly
Nicene Creed.
No. Okay, so you're making an argument, and I'm making a counter argument. That's fine. You can stick with yours. I'm just trying to tell you that Christianity is not something man gets to define. It's something God has defined. And men can be wrong about it, just like I could be wrong about it, but men doesn't get to define it. So you can't look at the
Christianity
Webster and say this is what it is.
I mean, I'm sorry, like this is just another category error. Christianity is a human invention. Now, you could say that it's a human invention about a thing that God created, but it is a human invention. Of course it is. The idea of following Jesus is a human invention.
Okay, all right. So what I'm saying is, if following Jesus, I'll agree that's Christianity, following Jesus.
Yeah,
But
and that's what the
does it
Nicene
mean?
Creed is. The Nicene
I
Creed
get
is
it, but
laying out what it means to follow Jesus.
No, but nobody gets to define that except
Yeah,
Christ.
yeah, of course they do. This is a human thing that
No,
humans have invented.
No. Christ lived a certain way. So if you're following him, you follow how he lived. If I come in and give you a different definition, that doesn't got nothing to do with how Christ lived. How he lived is how he lived. So nobody else gets to define
Wait,
that
did he?
except for
So
how
okay,
Christ
so he did live,
he's recorded in the Gospels.
right? You know what else is recorded in the
Again,
Gospels? That he like appeared in physical flesh after
okay,
his
so
death.
all words, even the word lived, right? Eternal life. It's not talking about physical life.
You're talking about
So all
you're
words.
talking out of both sides of your mouth.
No,
Like
no,
obviously,
what I'm
like on
saying-
the one hand, you're relying on what the gospel
Life-
says to figure out like what's true
I'm not
physically.
lying about the gospel. No,
No,
I'm
you're not
about
lying. You're
look,
talking out of both sides of your mouth. You're saying on the one hand, oh, it's just metaphorical. Oh, it's just spiritual. On the other hand, you're saying that these are things that actually happen physically.
I'm
You can't have both.
not saying other, and I'm not saying other hand. You're saying that. I just told you it's all metaphor. It's all symbolism. All of
Okay,
it.
so then you can't say anything
Oh.
about how Jesus actually lived, right? Because it doesn't say anything about how he actually lived. It's just symbolism.
Okay, here's what I can say. I can say that Jesus Christ came on earth to show us the Father. So what is he trying to show us? He's trying
Did he
to
wait?
show
Did
us
he
what
did he
love.
did he metaphorically come on Earth, or did he physically come on Earth?
Okay. Here, let me just put it this way. If I paint a Picasso portrait, that portrait is real. It's a real portrait. Now, I'm not saying that the portrait is real life, but it's a portrait. So it's conveying a concept, and you can look at it and understand the concept. So Christ has come to portray what love looks like,
Did he
what
physically
perfect
come?
love looks like. We see it in a Picasso painting called the Four
Okay,
Gospels.
but the Picasso painting
So
is a
whether he
physical.
actually
So
came, whether
in the same
he actually
way,
came, or whether I'm convinced, just like when I watch a movie. When you watch a movie, The Matrix, did you watch the movie? Yes. Was it real people? No, it's a movie. But you still can understand the
right?
message.
Okay, the question is
being conveyed in the
was
movie.
Jesus
So
a
the
real
point
was
is,
Jesus a
what's
real
the
person?
message?
Did Jesus
I
come in the
just
same
said-
way? Did Jesus come in the same way that the portrait came?
Okay. So here's my
Do not
final
come.
answer.
Do not
My
come.
final answer is that whether Jesus came in the flesh or whether Jesus
not
came in the
come.
movie Matrix, we still have the Messiah concept, which is the point. Get the concept. And don't try to worry about whether or not it physically happened or not, whether
I
it's
am worried
a
about it.
parable or whatever. Understand the concept. And so I'm trying to tell you that the whole point of Bible is understanding the concept of love, but you want to stay on the physical. And I'm saying don't go there. Stay on the concept. So the point of Jesus
Well, because the
coming,
physical is
point
very
of the four
relevant, right?
Gospels. No, to you. It's very relevant to you.
It's
but not
very
to me.
relevant to the claims
So
of
that's the-
Christianity, right? Because look, the core claim
No,
of Christianity is
no,
that
it is
please,
not.
please. The core
Okay.
claim of Christianity is that man is sinful. Jesus came, died for our sins, and through him we can purify ourselves. We can gain redemption, right? That's the core concept of Christianity.
Okay.
So unless it's physically true that Jesus died,
Yeah.
it just there's
it's just-
nothing.
No, okay, so this is your TikTok or your sense. So I understand that. But when you say the core claims of Christianity, you're not talking to me about what I'm actually talking about. You're talking about what
Okay, so
you
then you're not a
think and what you're
Christian.
refuting. No, you've
You can
defined
be
Christianity wrong.
you
That's
can
what I'm
be
trying to tell
a
you.
you can be a
No,
Shriston,
I'm saying that you have
Christian
defined Christianity
2.0.
wrong, but because you accept it as being correct, you can't hear me,
Look,
and you don't want to hear it.
would you
That's
say
fine.
that like okay? Would you
I'm
say
actually
that?
giving you a version of
Okay, I don't know why
Christianity.
I don't know why you can't let me ask my question. Okay, if I tell you I am a Yankees fan, right? But then I go to the World Series where the Yankees are playing, and I'm rooting against them. And you know, every time the Yankees come on the TV, I turn the TV off. And every time I see somebody wearing a Yankees jersey, I throw my drink at them. Would I be a Yankees fan?
No.
But you can't tell me what a Yankees fan is. I'm telling you I'm a Yankees fan.
No, but I'm saying I'm a Christian, and you're telling me I'm not because my views don't align with what.
Yeah, I know,
think
and you're telling me
Christians
I'm
are.
not a Yankees fan.
No, I'm saying I'm a Christian. So listen to
And
me.
I'm saying
as I
I'm a
explain
Yankees fan.
Christianity. Well, hold on, wait a minute. Who's the person saying they're a Christian on this call? Is it me or you?
You're saying you're a Christian. I'm saying I'm a Yankees fan.
Okay, so who gets to define what Christianity is? Me or you? If I'm the Christian
Under
and you're
your
not,
reasoning,
who gets to define it?
under your reasoning, you do. But then under my reasoning, I get to define whether I'm a Yankees fan.
Okay, but we're not talking about the Yankees. We're talking about Christianity.
Okay, do you understand the analogy? Do you understand the what just happened here?
Your analogy,
because you called me not a
no
Yankees
sense.
fan. You called me not a Yankees fan, but I'm the one who's the Yankees fan. You can't tell me I'm not a Yankees fan.
No, I agree with that, but we're talking about Christianity, not Yankees.
Okay, so we agree that
So
you can
I'm
be
the
a.
Christian.
So
I'm the-
hold on.
I'm
Hold
the
on.
Christian.
Just to clarify, you're telling me
You're
that you
not.
can be a
So I
Yankees
get to
fan
define
while not
Christianity,
enjoying
not you.
watching the Yankees?
No, I agree with your point you made about Yankees.
Okay,
But
so
we're
the
not
point
talking Yankees in this
that I made is that
Okay.
somehow
Yeah.
it's sensible, according to you anyway, to be a Yankees fan while rooting for the other team in the World Series,
I
while
didn't say that.
turning off the TV when the Yankees
No,
come
I
on
didn't
and
say
throwing drinks
I
at
didn't
people
say
who wear
that.
Yankees. You
I
just
didn't say that at all.
look. If you're a
I
Christian, then
agree
I'm a
with you.
Yankees fan.
Okay, it's fine. So I will let you tell me how Yankees fans think and act. But
Okay,
if we're talking
and a
about
Yankees
Christianity,
fan, a Yankee, yeah. So
but we're not
you'll
talking
let me
about
tell you.
Yankees.
So I'm
We're
going to
talking
tell
about
you.
Christianity.
Right. So you said that you're gonna let me tell you. So
But
I'm
we're
gonna tell
not
you.
talking about the
As a
Yankees.
Yankee, I know. As a Yankees fan, I root for the other team during the World Series. I throw drinks at people who wear Yankees jerseys, and I turn off the TV whenever the Yankees come on. And I'm a Yankees fan. That's what it is to be a Yankees
Okay,
fan.
that's fine. I'm not going to argue with you about Yankees fan if you're a Yankees fan and I'm not, because you get to define it. I'm not going to argue with you. But if I'm a Christian,
Okay, I take that to be a reductio.
yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, if I'm a Christian, then you'd allow me to explain what Christianity is. You can't say I'm not a Christian, but then you're telling me, a Christian, how to define Christianity. That makes no sense.
Yep.
Except to you, it does.
If that's what we're doing, then nothing means anything.
No, I just told you what Christianity is. I told you what it is. It's be a follower of Christ.
Yeah, words just don't mean anything.
No, follower of Christ. Jesus came down here, John 3:16, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. So Christ is the evidence of God's love for the whole world. So if you are a person that
Wait, did he literally give his own son? Or did he metaphorically give his own son?
Okay, all words. I don't know how many times I keep saying the same thing. All words have a spiritual meaning. So in the spirit, he absolutely gave his own son, but it doesn't mean the physical thing that you're thinking about. So if you don't want to understand what it means
Okay.
spiritually, then we're going to keep going.
So he didn't
back down
physically
this
give his
same
own son. Got it.
No, of course not. Of course not. It's
Okay.
all spiritual. Everything is spiritual.
Okay,
So
I'm glad
the
that we
question
agree.
is, do you want to understand what it means spiritually, or do you want to stick to the natural? Because if you stick to the natural, we can never effectively communicate. Because I
Well, look,
actually agree with you that
I'm only
Bible is not natural; it's spiritual.
I mean,
I
the
actually agree with that point.
Yankees are only a spiritual concept. They're not a physical concept.
We're not talking about Yankees. I don't know why you keep bringing it up.
You're right. We're not. I'm sorry. I can only do that for so long. Like, I actually wanted to cut him off far earlier, but you know, he wasn't a Christian, and he was very, very interested in being called a Christian. So, like, look, I'm generally fine with self-identity, but when you're using your self-identity to be like squirmy, it's really annoying. All right, let's drink some water and then let's read some super chats. We'll bring up another guest. All right, we have $10 from Binary Ghosts. That's okay, it's not a competition. You lack ambition. Where's your motivation, your drive? You lack ambition. Of course you don't believe in energy, as you apparently lack it. Object at rest indeed. You're right, you got me. It is a competition, and I'm losing. From Garain with the $2, maximal pedantry. We do like some pedantry here sometimes. From King Jumbo with the 1,000 jewels. Thanks for the goat trophy, my guy. From Binary Ghosts with the $10. Yeah, they say Dr. Blitz was a real person, and yeah, maybe. But really, he was a concept that was meant to teach people about the shape of the earth and letting people ramble at you about their beliefs. That's what it felt like. I feel like a concept right now. From Binary Ghosts with the $5. Thank you so much, Binary Ghosts. The Atheist Gatekeeping Christianity. This is a parable in making, right? It's so good. And from Peter Hollingshead with the $5, as a prophet of Blitz the kind, I have received revelation from on high and condemn any literature eternalizing Blitz besides his publications. There you go. True. That is the way, the truth, and the light. And from the very hungry Singularity with the $10, are these dollars spiritual? Well, look, if they are, I'll take them anyway. And from McSpartan with the $2, that guy was more atheist than you. Indeed, he was. Right. All right. Let's bring up another guest from the Discord because there's a lot of people in the Discord channel. Let's bring up Rustum. Rustum, you're on the show. Rustum? You have to unmute yourself. Okay. Almost, Rustum. Rustum, how's it going? I can. Rustum, do you believe in God?
Yes, I do, but I want to say that English. Yes, I do.
But you want to say what?
I'm sorry. I want to say that English is not my native language, so there.
As long as you're comfortable having a conversation in English, that's fine.
Yes, I can, but I want to ask you one question. Like,
by the way, your microphone's very quiet.
I'm sorry. 1 second.
You could just talk a little louder.
How it's now?
I think that's better.
How it's now?
Yeah.
I want to ask you one question. Like, why do you are atheist in relation to all religions or only to Christianity?
I'm an atheist about all religions as far as I can tell, at least all the ones that I've heard of.
So you just reject the concept of God, like
yeah, I don't think it's real.
Why? I want to ask you.
Because I've been given good reasons to think so, and I haven't been given good reasons to think that it is real.
So you think that model of reality that doesn't have God?
Your microphone's quiet again.
You think that the model of reality that doesn't have God explains the reality better than the theistic one?
Yeah.
In your opinion. Why? I don't understand this. Like.
Well, it probably explains it equally well, and it has one fewer object.
Okay, I like to know it from you.
Sorry, Rustum, your audio is sufficiently quiet. It's like impossible to hear you. I'm gonna let you go. Sorry about that, but I just can't be fighting with you the whole time about getting your audio good. All right, let's talk to MT Me. MT Me, how's it going? MT Me, you there? MT Me?
Yeah, sorry, I was just listening.
You're good.
To the conversation. Can you hear me now?
I can. Your audio's... Oh, actually, I can turn you up.
Yeah, I was just listening to the conversation.
Yeah, sure. So, MT Me, do you believe in God?
Yes.
Sorry?
Yeah, for the most part. For the most part, if you can hear me.
Okay. Yeah, your audio quality is kind of really bad.
Yeah.
You sound like you're talking through dirt.
I'm sorry about that. Is it better now?
Not really.
All right, give me a second.
Okay, try a different mic if you have one.
Is it any better now?
It is, but it's quieter.
All right, then I think it should be better now.
That's much better. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
So yeah, I was saying, in terms of a strict definition, not really. I was kind of listening to the conversation that was going on, I guess, behind the scenes with everybody else who's waiting on Discord. But yeah, I was just interested in some of the arguments that you've been presented with and the way that you look at, well, I guess how people frame certain things. Uh, as you said, you don't really debate people who are pantheists, really.
Yeah, I think that the whole thing about pantheism seems to be almost a linguistic dispute.
Well, yeah, but in religion, isn't everything a linguistic dispute?
No, I mean like if you're a theist, for example, or a deist for that matter, you think that there is another entity that I don't think exists.
Okay, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Um, well, I guess if you want to put it like that, I wouldn't put myself as strictly as a theist or a deist in that sense. It's more or less, I guess, questions I'd have for you in terms of how you look at what would be convincing for you, because I don't think there's any evidence that a person can present to somebody else in terms of something that is not. There's nothing physical about it, and that's a
Well,
problem. I
that's
think
not
that's
the
why
only
the
kind of
conversation.
evidence that exists. Well, look, since we don't
Okay.
since we don't really disagree about the kinds of things that exist, I'm gonna let you go. You can still listen and you can still hear the arguments, but I don't want to just do an interview, if that makes sense. All right, let's bring up another guest. We'll bring up a guest from I guess from TikTok. Let's bring up Kayeg Music. I don't know how I'm gonna pronounce that, but all right, it looks like Kayeg Music's not coming up. Let's bring up Nexus. Nexus,
Yo.
how's it going?
Yo, what's up? I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Nexus, do you believe in God?
Yes, I believe in a God, and I have a very important question. Do you think that it is unreasonable to be a theist and at the same time believe that science is valid?
No. I mean, it probably depends on what kind of theist you are, but no, I think that you can be a theist and also think that science is valid. They're not necessarily
that's
mutually
great.
contradictory.
Well, in my view, it isn't, because religion and God answers the questions on why, I don't know, why things exist, and etc. etc. Science.
Yeah, non-overlapping magisteria and all that. I think that that's like, it's respectable. I think that it's probably compartmentalization, but that's okay. I'm not too bothered by that.
Okay,
Look,
and
do you want to
Yeah.
talk about why I should believe in a God, or do you think that that's
well, we could, but the thing, I think there's another important question I would like to ask you, because I've seen that you had many debates, and I know that you're a really intelligent person. Do you think that debates are any good for, I don't know, trying to convince a person?
I think what they're very, very good. Well, okay, they can be very good for the audience for convincing them one way or the other, depending on how people perform. I think that they can also be very, very good for sharpening arguments.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I think that that's a valuable thing to do. I think that sometimes, it doesn't happen often, but very, very rarely can it actually lead to someone being convinced of something that they didn't believe beforehand. But I think that there's value, even if that's not achieved, I think there's still value in sharpening arguments.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's also good for like intellectualizing ourselves and so on.
Yep.
So
I agree.
Basically, I don't know. No, wait, just so. Okay. Why? Can you give me an argument for why you wouldn't believe in a God?
Yeah, let me pull up my big long list that I have in a Word document somewhere.
Maybe. Okay.
It's my Word document. I just I'm just gonna pick one randomly. From my
But
long list on.
Not. Okay.
I can just show you the Word document, right? Like this is all stuff that I typed up over the last few years. Here. And by the way, if anybody wants access to the Word document, you can get it. Just have to become a $5 a month member, and you can access the Word document, right? So we could just pick a modal collapse argument. So that's this one. I have a whole bunch, but so this one says, Yeah, I can summarize it for you if you want. I just felt like being a little bit of a troll. Okay, so the modal collapse argument is basically the claim is, or the conclusion of the argument is basically that the universe couldn't have failed to exist, that God didn't have a choice in the matter. And the argument goes, yeah, go ahead.
And why would it matter? Because
well, but then God's existence provides no explanatory power.
Provides no explanatory. What do you mean by this? So where do you want to go with this argument? So
yeah, so look, if God's existence provides no explanatory power, if we can just explain the world without a God, equally well explain the world without a God, then Occam's razor gets us to a point where we can say that, oh well, it's more reasonable to take the not God view.
Why would it be more reasonable?
Because there's fewer assumptions built in. And
that makes it more. I'm not being like, I don't want to.
It's Occam's razor, right? If we're comparing theories, whichever theory is most parsimonious, i.e., has the fewest entities or has the fewest assumptions, and they are equally explanatory, then Occam's razor says you adopt the theory that has fewer moving parts, and so that's.
Okay. Yeah. That's a valid
now you can reject Occam's razor and you can just multiply entities beyond reason if you want. I just don't think that's a good way to come to conclusions.
No, you're right. Then go and start with your argument, please.
Yeah. So first, we say that God is all of God's properties. Maybe you need that from maybe you need divine simplicity there, maybe not. It depends on your perspective. But God is necessary, and hence God's will is necessary. God willed to create the universe. But if God's will is necessary, then God could not have failed to will the universe. If God could not have failed to will the universe, then the universe could not have failed to exist. So we conclude that if God's will is necessary, the universe could not have failed to exist, and therefore, because God's will is necessary, the universe could not have failed to exist. I.e., and then the rest of it follows roughly. That, so hopefully that makes sense.
I'm having a hard time on understanding. I think the first part, the first. I think it was the first. I don't know, not premise, but first argument, first part of the argument. Could you read again, please?
Yeah. So first, you have that God's will is necessary. If God's will is necessary, then God could not have failed to create the universe. And then we can we just conclude that. Yeah.
If he wanted to create the universe,
that's what it means to have the will. Right.
The will.
The will is the one.
The will. I don't know if we can define it like this. So
a will is just a will is just kind of like another word for a collection of desires.
Yeah, but how can we know what his? Okay, it's a collection of desires. That's right, but it is not necessary that he has this will. That's my problem.
Okay, but then now, so if that's the case, if God's will is not necessary, then we need an explanation as to why he has that will.
Yeah, that's right. But the problem is that I can't give you any, because that would mean that.
So then we have an explanatory gap.
Yeah, we have.
And so, whereas I could just say the universe is necessary, and now there's no explanatory gap.
Yes, but I don't think that this is necessarily more. I know that it is more convenient. That's right, but I wouldn't agree on the fact that it is more reasonable, because it still depends on this thing. And
what depends on it doesn't depend on anything if it's necessary. Well, okay, it can be dependent and necessary, but it's also independent in this case. So
it's independent.
Yeah, you could take the view. So typically the God view is something like God is both necessary and independent. And I'm just saying, okay, well, we can apply that to the universe, and we have the same explanatory power. And if we take that view, then we don't run into any issues. But if you take the view that God is necessary and independent, but God's will is not necessary and independent, then now you have an explanatory gap. So the God theory has a gap, whereas the necessary and independent universe theory doesn't.
Yeah, but okay, please correct me if I'm I don't know, circling around, but is it necessary to to don't have an bro, shut the fuck up. Sorry, I'm not meaning you. Is it necessary to not have a gap?
You can have gaps, but if we're trying to figure out which is a better explanation for something, then the one with fewer gaps will be a better explanation.
Yeah, but then this
as long as it's not wrong, right? As long as it doesn't come to any incorrect conclusions, the explanation with fewer gaps will be better.
Well, would be better, but and that's the problem I have with arguments, because now I will continue to say, in my opinion, it is reasonable to maybe don't argue with this point if there is, bro, shut the fuck up, if there is an explanatory gap. So in my view, the argument wouldn't be valid, because there
well, the argument's
exists a
definitely valid.
possibility.
It's but like which part of the argument do you reject?
The first one, because I know there's an explanatory gap, and I can explain why.
But then it just seems like that. It just seems like that your model of God can't explain why the world is this way.
Well, the problem, there's a big tension between what I can know and what I can't know, and I think that also for me as a believer, I have a hard time completely rationalizing my belief, because I can't 100% fully explain and understand my own God, but this doesn't make it more unreasonable, in my opinion.
You don't have to be able to fully understand something or fully explain it with 100% certainty. The point is either God's will is necessary or it's not. And if it's necessary, then, we run into the modal collapse problem. If it's not necessary, then that means that it has a deeper explanation. And then whatever that explanation is, either it's necessary or it's contingent. And so you either end up, there is something that's unexplained, or you end up with a chain of necessity, which gets you to the universe was necessary to be created, that there was no choices involved in the matter. No libertarian choices, anyway. Like, it's a dichotomy. It's not like, oh, I just don't know, but maybe there is. There either is or there isn't, and both of them look bad.
I'm sorry, because I couldn't follow you 100%, but I'm trying to use what I heard. So basically, what you're saying is that it is necessary, bro, shut the fuck up. It is necessary to accept the fact that there is a will, and the will is obviously that there needs to be an universe.
Well, under the God model, it's God's will that God's will is the reason why the universe exists, right?
But this argument also, like, it also means that, I don't know, no, you're kind of right. I think I need to think about this argument. It's really interesting. It's a really interesting argument, and it makes sense. And it is a challenge for me. It's, that's what I wanted, something to make me think about my belief system and so on. So
good. Well, I don't have to convince you, as long as I can make you think. I'll take that as a good thing.
It is. I mean, yeah. I don't know if I'm. The thing is, I haven't done this many debates, and I only done debates with other Christians on denominations and so on. But this wouldn't make sense now. Or would you? I don't know. Which denomination do you think is the most likely to be the correct one? Or
I think that they're all equal. So I think that the Trinity is, like, obviously nonsense, and so any denomination that the Trinity. Any denomination that invokes the Trinity, I just, like, automatically think it's, like, crazy sauce.
Why?
Because 3 isn't 1. You can't have 3 gods and also have 1 god. Like, this is, like, obviously nonsense.
It's not 3 gods and 1 god. It's
is Jesus God?
Jesus is God, yeah.
Okay, is the Father God?
Yeah.
Okay, is the Holy Spirit God?
Yeah.
Okay, is Jesus the Father?
No.
Is the Father the Holy Spirit?
No.
Okay, so you have 3 things which are not each other, and they're all God. Sounds like that's 3 gods.
they share the same nature. Exactly, like it's as if we are saying, yeah, are we
But we-
both human?
But we
Are
don't say
are
that
we
there's
both-
one human.
Well, we say that there's one God.
Well, right. So I'm a human. I'm a human. You're a human. You and I are not the same. So there's more than one human. Jesus is God. The Father is God. Jesus is not the Father. Therefore, there's more than one God. It seems like it seems so obvious. Like you can look. I'm sure that there are ways that you can respond to this, and you can like twist the meaning of the word "is," and you can twist what it means to count, and like all of this stuff. It all just seems like cope.
Okay, maybe
That's the point.
I don't know.
And like you don't have to agree with that, but that's why I think that they're all kind of equally silly.
Can I present you my view of the Trinity? I don't know if it's
Sure,
if
but I
it's-
bet you it'll sound like cope to me. But go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So I go ahead. So in my view, there aren't three distinct persons.
Oh, that's heresy.
So there aren't. Maybe wait. Maybe I'm not a native. I'm not a native speaker. Maybe
It's
the
okay.
word. Maybe
I
the
mean,
word,
okay, actually, let me correct myself. There are heretical Christian views which actually can make sense of the Trinity, I think, quite well.
No, but I'm
they're all
Orthodox
heresies.
Christian, so I'm Orthodox Christian, so no, I
Right.
don't try to be heretic.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, please correct me if I'm using wrong terminology.
Yeah. So at least Christian dogma says that yes, Jesus is a different person from God.
He is different, so that's how I perceive it. He's different in the way he presents himself, but this would again. So how I see these things are that there is Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and there's God, but there's the Father. But these are only these differentiations that we make. These are only to have like a, in my view, they're more like a not a metaphor, but that's the way how God presents himself, and how his presence works in our world. So the Father, he is a transcendent one. He is how we.
This is
we
also a
show-
heresy, by the way.
In which way?
It's modalism. That God has
what
different
is that?
modes. That God's mode in the physical world is Jesus. That God's mode in the divine is the Father. That God's mode in the church is the Spirit. That's modalism.
I'm
That's
not
also a
saying
heresy.
mode. I'm not saying mode because he's all at the same time, but there are different ways to perceive each and every different persons. That's so each and every that.
Well, but then that's partialism. You're saying that there's one way of looking at God that looks like this, and another way of looking at God that looks like that, which means that the Father is one part of God, that Jesus is another part of God.
I'm viewing the different parts of the world where we see where God is active in another way.
So God is
basically-
active in different ways. That sounds like different parts to me, doesn't it?
Yeah, he can do more things than just he can do.
And you
more
said you're
things
an
at the same
Orthodox,
time.
right? You're Orthodox, right? Do you adhere to divine simplicity?
What does divine simplicity mean?
That God doesn't have any property. That God is identical to its properties.
Well, he is.
Meaning God is love, not just God has love. That kind of thing.
That's how. So what I'm going to say is how I perceive, not understand what you just said, but I think God is love. Yeah. Why would you have a problem with this sentence?
Well,
God
because
is
if you
love.
if you take divine simplicity seriously, then God can't act. Then God can't be different in different respects. God can't be broken down into pieces.
Because he is only love, or what?
He's identical to all the ways that he is. Like they are identical to each other. There's no way to there aren't separate properties of God.
No, God has only one. He has only limited, not limited, but there is a set of how God's well, how can I put this in word? God will only have. Can you please repeat what you said?
Yeah, so if you take divine simplicity seriously, and I think the Orthodox do, but I'm not sure, then that means that God doesn't have separate properties. It's not like, oh, God looks like this in this context and looks like that in that context, because all of those things are identical.
No, he doesn't have a separate. Bro, why did I forget the word? He doesn't have separate. What did you say? Separate properties. No, he doesn't have separate properties, but we can view him differently from different views, from different perspectives. We can view him.
So then you're saying, so just to summarize, it sounds like you're saying that Jesus is just like one perspective on what God is. But then Jesus isn't a separate person. That'd be like saying, look, what you're saying is like, and it's not quite this, but it's like saying Clark Kent, you know, the guy who, do you know who Clark Kent is?
No.
Okay, you know Superman?
Yeah.
Clark Kent is the guy that he pretends to be when he's not Superman, right? Yeah. It's like his regular name. So it'd be like, so it sounds like what you're saying is that like Clark Kent and Superman are different people, because like we view this essence of Superman kind of differently in different contexts. Like when he's wearing the clothes of like a reporter and he's working at the Daily Globe, he's Clark Kent, and when he's wearing the Superman suit, he's Superman. But that's just saying that that's just saying that there are two different ways that a single person can present themselves. Which on Trinitarianism, you have to say that there are three different persons. Look, so you're having discomfort, and I get that you're having discomfort, because this is why, because the Trinity is confusing, and it really doesn't want to make sense, especially dogmatic, especially standard Trinitarianism. I'm not telling you that you have to reject it all of a sudden, but just like this, think about the tension that's there.
Yeah, there definitely is a big tension also for me, but the thing is, I have a hard time with this word persons, because if we say persons, then we imagine like three different persons, exactly like we imagine three different people: Spider-Man, Superman, and Batman.
Yep.
But so I don't really like this word. I know that I have to agree on this because this is the term that was used. Yeah, but I'm sorry, and I don't think I'm heretic when saying that the term is can easily and too easily be misunderstood, or maybe be misused in this context. But
the important point, like, so look, the Council of Nicaea, they weren't speaking in English, so they didn't use the word person, right? But the idea behind it is that like there are three, like, in some sense, separate minds. Like when God is thinking, when the Father is thinking, this is not the same thing as the Son thinking. Like Jesus had thoughts that were not the thoughts of the Father. Because, and in fact, this is kind of like obvious, right? Otherwise, why would Jesus call out for the Father while he's on the cross if they had the same thoughts? Not to say that they didn't know each other's thoughts, because they're both all-knowing, but their thoughts aren't the same. Yeah. They have like different identities.
But again, a problem. Yeah, I think there's again an explanatory gap, but I think that it is necessary to have explanatory.
Or you could just not be a Trinitarian, right?
No. But then it wouldn't. No. This, I'm sorry. My whole life is based on believing.
All right.
No, I can't.
No. So, look, you can be a Unitarian Christian, but okay. Look. I'm not going to push you anymore. Just think about it. You don't have to make a decision. Go read some more about the Trinity. Come up with other arguments, and then find them. But this is at least something worth thinking about, because there's something. Yeah. There's something that's missing there. There's something that's confusing, and it doesn't make sense. So I'm going to let you go. Because I don't want to push you too hard.
No, one second.
All right, one second, and then I'll let you go, because I'm going to bring up another guest before I end the live
No,
stream.
no, not just 1 second. But so yeah, I agree in the fact that they have different thinking, but I don't know if thinking. Wait. I don't know if thinking is the right word, because thinking is limited on us humans. We think as so when we hear the word thinking, we think of human.
I'm using it analogically. I'm just using it as like an analogy. Like, obviously the Father doesn't exist in time or whatever, so like thinking is not like what humans do. But the idea is that there is like a separate identity. Like, there are separate, whatever my identity is, if it's my thinking, if it's my memories, if it's my desires, if it's my values, whatever those are, they're separate.
No, they are separate, but I don't think that they are separate things concerning God, because I'm sorry, but I would say
Jesus
that
and the Father?
Yeah, there are not separate things. There are only different ways in how we perceive, in which they present themselves, in which God. They are just different ways in which God presents Himself to us.
Okay, so
because
look,
the whole. Yeah,
and maybe this will just like put a nail in the coffin. So the idea from the Nicene Creed, and I have the Nicene Creed pulled up. You're familiar with the Nicene Creed, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so the idea of the Nicene Creed, when it's talking about Jesus, it says he was crucified, then he was suffered and buried. The third day he rose again. According to the scriptures, he ascended to heaven and is seated at the right hand of the Father, right? So Jesus and the Father are sitting next to each other in heaven. If they're
more of a... No, this is more of a metaphor, and no, this is really interesting.
But they're not identifying them as the same thing. If Jesus was just kind of like the way that we interacted with God in the physical world, and the Father is the way that we interact with God kind of spiritually, and the Holy Spirit is the way that we interact with God in the church, then it wouldn't be the case that you could have Jesus being the God in heaven or being with the Father. They would always be separate from each other. So it can't really be that they're just like kind of different ways that we're interacting with the one God. It just can't be. They have to be different people.
So I've talked about this a lot, mostly in our Catholic class. I live in Germany, so we have Catholic class. So there's an interesting thing about the Nicene Creed, because when they say that Jesus sits to the right of the Father, this isn't meant in a, I don't know, theological way, but this was how people perceived the world. This was their science back then. This was the old, I don't know, the old worldview, when people thought that the earth was flat and there was a bubble, and above this bubble was the all-knowing God. And
we can interpret it metaphorically. Like, how many thrones are there in heaven?
I don't think there's a throne, because the throne
a metaphorical
is
throne.
For what?
For the King of Heaven, or for the kings of heaven. There's only one. So Jesus is not sitting in the king. Jesus is not sitting in the king's chair. Metaphorically. Because look, they could have, if the Nicene Creed was, even if it's understood metaphorically, because obviously they thought that like the earth was flat and all this stuff, even if it's understood metaphorically, they're still suggesting that both the Father and Jesus are kind of separately in charge of heaven, right? The whole seated at the right hand of the Father, this could be understood as a metaphor for, like, you talk about like a king during like the medieval ages. They had like their right hand man, and their right hand man was like the person who was delegated lots of power, and he was in some sense also in charge. And so they wouldn't have described Jesus as being the right hand man of the Father if they were just the same person.
Well, they have, because because Jesus and the Father aren't necessarily different beings. They're just different ways in which God presents him, and that's how I perceive it. You can correct me, I don't have a problem with this.
So why did they describe him as the right hand man of the Father? Yes,
because what is the right hand? It is someone who's helping you in another way you can't help yourself. So this is it's not that the Father can't help himself, but the Father is only responsible for, let's say, there are three different parts of the power of, there are three different parts in which God can present himself.
But now you're back to partialism. There's God of there's God the Father, whose responsibility is like the stuff in heaven. There's God the Son, whose responsibility is to bring the message on earth and to provide salvation. And then there's God the Holy Spirit, whose responsibility is to flow through people and bring them to the church,
No, but
right?
this is our perspective. I'm not saying that we are saying the Nicene Creed of from our perspective, and that's how we perceive things. So basically, for me personally, when I hear that the right hand of God, of the Father, Jesus, sits at his right side, it is as if hearing that he aligned, not he aligned, but he basically, he with his way of presenting himself on earth, he disappeared. So this presenting on earth, it disappeared, and it became also a part of this his transcendent, not of his transcendentally, but this part. It's I need to say that this is really complicated, even to think about, nevertheless to explain it. But how I perceive things is that there's just this power that that was removed from Earth, and now it is removed from Earth and is now not used anymore on Earth and not present on Earth. Not this power, but this way with which God presents himself. Can you understand what I'm saying? I know that I'm speaking really unclear, and it's...
So there's a part of God that was present on earth that's no longer on earth.
Not a part of God, but the way in which God presents himself.
I don't know what the difference is.
A part of God is saying, well, for example, a human, there are the three parts: the head, the torso, and then the legs. It's as if you were saying, yeah, the legs disappeared from a person, but I would rather say that the legs weren't used anymore, or wouldn't. I know it's kind of a dumb analogy, but that's how I perceive things.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure I follow. Like, so God's powers were on earth. That's what made Jesus separate from the Father. Right?
Separate in our understanding,
well, I mean, they're separate things,
because...
right? They are separate things. Like, Jesus is not the same as the Father. In fact, of course they can't be. Jesus is the son of the Father. You can't be the son of yourself.
I can't. In worldly term, no, I can't. I can't.
Well, do you think that Jesus is his own son?
Jesus is his own son. That's an interesting... No, he is not.
Okay, so then he's separate. In some way, he's separate. So he can't be the same thing.
Again, wait. Son is referred to...
it's a metaphorical son, but it's still a son. He was begotten. Okay, how about this? The Father begat the Son, right? That's an English word, an old-timey English word. Begetting is asymmetric. One cannot be both begotten and begat regarding the same subject, right? I can't beget my son and also be begotten by my son. So like they have to be different things. Otherwise, how would one beget the other?
I know it's a bit too much asked for. It's no problem if you can't answer me this, and I won't have a problem with this. But do you know the Greek word that was used instead of begotten?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But like I mean, whatever the word was, the meaning is certainly asymmetric, right?
Asymmetric, you say? Okay.
Yeah. Like they certainly weren't using a word that can apply to yourself.
Yeah, I think so, but oh my days, correct me if this is
that's the most German British thing I've ever heard.
What?
Oh my days.
Well, I use it a lot.
Did you learn English? Yeah, sure. Did you learn English from somebody who learned from like, you know, British culture, or from perhaps like a British teacher?
Yeah.
Okay, that explains it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I think that's a good explanation to it. So how I perceive this word begotten is as if oh my days. So I'm scared to make this
You
analogy.
did it again.
Okay, but I'm
Go ahead.
okay. I'm saying so basically it is for me as if I created the game, a video game, and then
Mhm.
I created my own player in this game.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
yeah, okay.
but this is still me acting in a different way. It is, this character is not different. It's not that different
Right,
for me
but
because
then we would say that so that's that is another kind of heresy, by the way.
Okay, no,
Okay.
no, then I stop with my dumb analogy.
That is that's very close to Arianism. Or
Okay,
perhaps
that's interesting. Okay.
subordinationism. Like there are a lot of ways to make sense of the Trinity. It's just once you start giving one that actually makes sense, it ends up being a heresy.
Yeah, kind of. You know what? I'm not gonna continue with another argument because I'm seeing that I don't know what the Trinity is in reality. I just have the delusion of it.
So look, and maybe I'm not going to say I'll help you out. So there are a lot of educated Christians, and when asked about the Trinity, they're just like, look, I don't know it. It's mysterious. This is what the people who had direct experience with Jesus believed. And so I'm going to trust them. I'm going to trust that they were right, even though I don't understand it. That is, I think, probably the most honest thing that a Trinitarian can say.
Well, that's what I would say right now, because I realize that I need to say this in order to still be a believer. And yeah,
I mean, and so like, look, I can at least respect that, because like, you know, we do this thing where we believe people who are trustworthy, and if you believe that the disciples and the early church fathers were trustworthy, then that's at least a reason to believe it, even if you don't understand it. Which, you know, I think that's I don't think that's irrational. But I am going to let you go because I want to bring up at least one more guest before I end the live. Is that okay?
One question. You can say yes or no. Do you think it would be a good idea maybe to read the church fathers?
Maybe, if that's something that interests you. I imagine that they're probably really like horrible to read. So you could probably go read like more modern interpretations of like what they were saying, or modern translations, that kind of thing.
I'll do so. Okay, thank you very much.
Was that his friend being like a... That was so close to being so chill, and then I think his friend just... Was that him? Was that him? Because there was another guy, right? There were two people that were talking. And like the person who started shouting the N-word was shouting, and then another voice came in and said, "Oh my," and then I cut him off. I don't think that was him. At least I hope. Yeah, I think that he was like begging his friend to like not talk the whole time. So I'm just going to assume that because he was such a decent guy. Okay, good. Whew. Gave me a panic response there for a second. Okay, from Flux Channeler with the $10, say you forced to the best of your ability, defend a particular theist viewpoint. What do you think would be the easiest and or most convincing position you could take? Probably some sort of like, not any sort of non-heretical Christianity, because the Trinity is nonsense. It would probably be some sort of like metaphorical liberal interpretation of Islam, or perhaps like a metaphorical liberal interpretation of Judaism, or perhaps, and I couldn't do it because I just don't know like various sects of Hinduism or Buddhism correctly well enough to get to defend those. But it would probably be one of those two. The only reason I say that, if we're talking about like theism and not like just like some sort of pantheism, the only reason I say that is because a lot of the moral teachings from these ancient traditions are like abhorrent. And so, but if you like take like a kind of like a metaphorical kind of liberal interpretation, be like, oh well, this is just how people were understanding the commandments of God, but they were mistaken, then we can like square some of like these ancient traditions with like the way that we modernly understand good things and bad things. Hopefully that helps. From Flux Channeler again with the $10, and on the third day God created the Remington bolt action rifles so that man could fight the dinosaurs. True, very true. From Game Guy with the $2, there's one throne, Jesus sits on Sky Daddy's lap. Look, that's what the sun does, okay? All right, let's bring up one more guest. We should have time for another guest. Bring up a guest from Discord. I want to make sure that these are new guests. Let's bring up Adam Everest. Adam Everest, how's it going? Adam Everest, you gotta unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
I can. Adam, how's it going?
What's going on, man?
Oh,
Hey,
hold
so
on.
I was listening to the last gentleman that you were just talking to.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
And I just have a couple of just clarifying questions.
Sure, I just want to double check. Do you believe in God?
Yes, yes.
Okay, just checking. Go ahead.
So I'm a Trinitarian.
Sure.
And so my question is, what are your main disbeliefs in the Trinity?
Yeah, that 3 isn't the same thing as 1. That we're supposed to believe that there are 3 people, all of whom are God, and yet there's only the one God.
Yes.
This kind of seems
my
like a mistake in counting.
So from my perspective, right, and from what we learn as Trinitarians, we believe that God is one and he's full, but he has distinct persons. So
yeah, what does that mean?
So
is
God
like,
comes, right?
Is God like a company? And like there's like the one God company, and then there's like the 3 people that work at the company?
No, he's just he's a being with distinct personalities. So you see in the beginning, right? What do you mean partialism?
That there are different parts of God, each part being a personality.
I mean, how's that? No, there's different persons.
Yeah.
So you have the
each
Father,
person
you
is
have
a
the
part
Son,
of
and the
God.
Holy Spirit. Right. Yeah.
That's a heresy.
And it all makes one.
People were burned alive for believing that. Don't ask me. The church just decided that it's a heresy.
Okay, so we see things in Genesis, right? In the beginning, God created he created the heavens and the earth, right? And when he creates man, he says, "Let us make man in our image." And then later on down the line, we see that you have in the God of the Bible, you have Yahweh in heaven, you have Yahweh on earth. And when Yahweh in heaven manifests and comes to the earth, in however, if it's a bush or a pillar of fire, but we identify him all the same as Yahweh. When he sends the angel of Yahweh, he sends
except
them,
when his name is
he
Jesus,
sends the angel
right?
with. What do you mean? No, I mean Jesus still identifies himself as I am in a first person.
Okay, but I am is
tense.
not I am is not the tetragrammaton, right? Like those aren't the same thing.
What do you mean tetragrammaton?
The tetragrammaton is the respectful way to refer to the name of God that you just gave.
So you mean Yahweh?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we look in let's say Exodus 3:33, that's when or 3:14, that's when God reveals his name to Moses, right? And he reveals it as Hayah Asher Hayah. It means I am that I am.
Well, no, that's not his name.
When you see that,
that's a statement.
Well, I mean that's the name. That I mean every name
the
has
name is Yud Hey Vav Hey, right?
No, so hold on. We'll get there. So his name is Hayah Asher Hayah. That's how he reveals himself to Moses.
Wait a minute.
And
hold on.
That
you could. So look, if I came up to you and I said, I am a physicist, that doesn't mean that I am a physicist is my name.
No, but if your name meant that you are okay, so there's
okay, but Yud Hey Vav Hey does not mean that.
Hold on. Cynthia means moon in Greek, right? So there's a meaning behind the name. I mean,
So I think it's Selenia or something, but it doesn't matter. But
okay.
The point is that the name, the 4 letters in the tetragrammaton is not a word. Doesn't mean anything. It's a name. At least if it does mean something, it was lost to time.
Well, again, in the translations, we can see what the name means.
No, you can't, because when they write, when it says I am what I am, That's not spelled the same way. Not the same set of characters, right? It's a different title, if you will.
No, I'm not understanding what you're saying to me. If
Look, so
there's a
God's
dialogue.
description.
Hold on.
God's description is that he is what he is. God's name is the Tetragrammaton. God's title is Elohim. These are like.
Okay, can you give me the next 30 seconds to finish my statement?
Go ahead.
Okay. So in Exodus 3, verse 14, there's a dialogue between the burning bush, and Moses. And Moses asks him, "Who should I tell the people of Israel who sent me?" Right? And the bush identifies himself, and he says, "Tell them I am that I am." And then he says, "And this will be my name forever." Okay? So he tells them when it's translated, he tells them, "I am that I am," or I exist. Okay? And then he tells them later on in that same dialogue, he tells them to tell them that Yahweh sent him. Right? So when we look the word Yahweh up and Haya Asher Haya, it's the same word, but there's a different tense. So there's a first person, which is when God reveals his name to Moses. And then later on, when Moses reveals to the Israelites, he says, "The one who exists, he who exists sent me, and this is his name forevermore." So regardless of translation or what words are different, God reveals this to Moses, and he says, "This is what you'll call me." So therefore, this is his name. So the bush is Yahweh, yes?
Sure. Do you want me to respond to what you were saying, or?
Yeah.
Okay,
So the bush is Yahweh.
So I'm looking at the Hebrew right now.
Okay.
I can pull it up so then we can, or I'll share it with everybody so then we can all see it. And just look at the Hebrew here. And then let me share it with you too, so that you can see it on my screen. Okay, can you see it?
Yes, now.
Okay, so the relevant verse that you're looking at, right, is 13 and 14, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can look at the English or we can look at the Hebrew. But the relevant point is that at least in the English translation, it's something like, "What is your name? What shall I say unto them?" So if you said that to me, and I was trying to be mysterious, I would say, "Tell them the physicist has spoken with you," right? But that's not my name. It's just me telling you what to tell them. Now, it could have been his name, except when we go look at the Hebrew, Ahyeh, Asher, Ahyeh, or Ahyeh, rather, that is just not the same word that you get from the Tetragrammaton. This is 11 letters. The Tetragrammaton is 4. There are 3 alepphs. Correct. There are no alepphs in the Tetragrammaton. There are hays and yuds, but that's it. That's the only thing that they have in common. Okay. There are plenty of words that have hays and yuds.
The Tetragrammaton is a different tense. So
look, this is not,
it's a third person. It's the same word, but it's a third person.
This isn't a word. This is 3 words.
So it's referring, the same words, but it's 3. It's in a third person. So someone is talking about him. It's not me talking about myself. So when God reveals his name to Moses, it's him talking about himself to Moses. And again, who names God? Only God would name God. So if God chooses a name, "Hey, I am the one who exists, and this will be my name."
By the way, it's not "I am the one that exists." It's "I am that I am."
Well, I am that I am, which it means to exist. Haya means to exist.
Well, it means to be, or it's the verbal stem for being, not existing. Those are different things, but that's perhaps semantic. There probably wasn't a word for existence. But look, I mean, it's just not the case that if you somehow take that sentence, "I am that I am," and you put it in, third person singular masculine, that you get the Tetragrammaton. That's not true.
I mean, do a Google search on that then.
Okay, I'm gonna go into. We can just go to Google Translate. The third person singular would be "he is." Oops, that's Arabic. We want English to Hebrew, and we can just punch this in, and it'll probably give us something approximately correct. He is that he is, or he is what he is, we could say. Either one. None of these are the
They're
Tetragrammaton.
idiom, so. I mean, we're looking at a modern translation, though, yeah?
Okay, so then what should I look at to get the ancient translation that the ancient Hebrews didn't agree with?
Well, this is the, let's go to a concordance.
Don't tell me you're going to ask for Strong's Concordance, are you?
I mean, do you have an issue with the Strongs?
I have heard horrible things about it.
I mean...
why don't we just Google, and we can just type this into Google. We can just ask, okay. What is the evidence that the Tetragrammaton is, means anything? Or
I mean, just Google the difference between Haya and Haya
was not what's written. That's not what's in the Hebrew.
Asher Haya is that's how it's pronounced.
It's literally not pronounced Haya. It's Ehye, right? That's what the first word is. Ehye. Ehye, Asher, Ehye.
Where am I at? I should have done this on my computer. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, let me see. Okay, this is off of a
So look, I just pulled up the Wikipedia page. We can just look at this together.
okay, EHYEH. Yeah? That's why you're saying
no.
Ekya. Do you speak Hebrew?
I can read it. I know it a little bit. I can read Hebrew.
Okay,
That's why
so
I
the
was
reason
reading
why
the
I'm
Hebrew.
saying Haya is because the pronunciation in English, that's how they have it written out to pronounce Haya.
Okay, well, it's wrong.
Y-A-W or Y-A-H.
I don't know why they would have that because it's wrong. But look, we can just look at the Wikipedia article
in
for
Exodus
this.
3:14 through 15, God transitions from speaking about himself into the first person, I, to giving a personalized name for the people to use in the third person, he. Both words come from the exact same Hebrew root, Haya,
That's contentious.
to exist or to become.
That's contentious.
What do you mean?
Like that's not agreed upon by scholars. I don't know where you're reading that from. I mean, I suspect it's probably a religious source, but
I just did a Google search.
Look, okay. So this is the Wikipedia article for the Tetragrammaton, right? You know, it has its sources.
You know, I've heard really bad things about Wikipedia, man.
Okay, well, it's not 25 years ago, so not anymore. So in particular, it says the name may be derived from a verb that means to be, to exist, to cause to become, or to come to pass. It may be, right? There is no consensus about the structure and etymology of the name.
Yeah, but I'll concede to just leave it as I am that I am. It doesn't matter whether it's
no. The point is that there's no consensus that that's what it means. This is not like agreed upon by all of the scholars, right?
As far as like what's
the people
in the
who study
text,
this
that
for their,
we don't know what his name means. We don't know that it means I am that I am.
Yeah, that we don't know that the Tetragrammaton means I am that I am. That's not something that's universally agreed upon.
Do we know what gosh, what did Jesus say? Ego emi, or when he tells the Pharisees that in Greek, we can agree that we know what that means. No,
he wasn't speaking Greek, right?
I mean, whether it was Greek or Arabic or
it was Hebrew,
whatever language,
or maybe Aramaic.
I mean, it could have definitely been Greek. It could have definitely been Aramaic.
Not to the Pharisees.
The area that I mean, they were in an area that was controlled by Rome. I'm sure they spoke Greek too.
I don't know
Yeah?
if there's
No?
any. I mean,
Latin?
like, I could be wrong here, but I suspect that there's no evidence that Jesus spoke Greek.
I mean, I don't think that there's any evidence that he didn't speak it either, because again, I'm sure that the Paul spoke Greek. I'm sure that
It's because
a lot of the
Paul-
writers of the New Testament,
Well, wait a minute. I'm
they
not
grew
sure
up in an area that
Paul
was
spoke
controlled
Greek.
by Rome. So if you go in and you conquer a territory, are you going to learn their native language, or are
Yeah,
you
what's
gonna
the native
teach them
language of
to speak
Rome?
the Latin, whatever it was?
Yeah, so why would they speak Greek?
I mean, I don't know what it turned into, man. But we can agree that what Jesus said there was directly correlated with the title and the name of God. Yeah.
He was, I mean, plausibly quoting the Exodus verse.
Well, they picked up stones to kill him.
Okay.
So there
What does that have to do with
there was
anything?
no. Well, you said that we don't know that that's what the Tetragrammaton means. And
Yeah, he didn't say the
Jesus directly
Tetragrammaton.
quotes it.
No, he didn't.
Well,
He didn't quote
what
the
do you mean?
Tetragrammaton. He quoted a verse from Exodus.
No,
Plausibly.
no, I
The whole
know.
I am that I am.
Exactly. That's
But
the
that's not.
reason,
That's not.
because when you quote
That
the
doesn't mean that.
Tetragrammaton,
That doesn't mean it's the
Jesus
same
would've
as
said-
Jesus' name.
Well, again,
Or
if
God's name,
Jesus
rather.
would, that's the whole point that I'm trying to make. If Jesus would have said, before Abraham was, he is, or he was, then it would have been like, oh, okay, yeah, the Father, yeah, Yahweh, he was.
What point are you
But
trying to
Jesus
make? Aren't you
directly
trying to make? Aren't you trying to make the point that, actually,
Jesus directly quoted a first
yeah,
person.
he quoted. Yeah, sure.
Haya, Asher, Haya. So
Yeah,
that's
sure.
what I'm saying. You said that we don't know that that's what it means, but
Well, hold
we
on.
have
That's separate.
a
That's separate from the claim. Look, so it's like, was Jesus asked what his name was?
Who in that aspect, or
Yeah.
in that little dialogue there between him and the Pharisees? No, he was not asked his name.
So then, what does this have to do with the claim that the Tetragrammaton means "I am who I am" or "I am that I am"?
Well, again, you said that we have no way of knowing what that means, but then
But
later on
he wasn't
we see
asked
Jesus.
what his name was. He wasn't
what-
referring
what-
to. He
what
wasn't
God's
referring to
name
the
was?
Tetragrammaton at all.
He absolutely was. He was referring back
No,
to.
he
Well,
wasn't.
not
He
to
said
the
he
Tetragrammaton. He was
quoted
going back to.
He quoted the Exodus 3:14 verse, not the Tetragrammaton.
That's my point. That's my point.
But he
My
wasn't
point
asked
is,
what his
he didn't
name
quote
was.
it in a third person. The Tetragrammaton
What
is
does
in a
that
third
have to do
person
with
for the
anything? The
people.
point is whether the Tetragrammaton is a name.
The okay, all right. You lost me somewhere, and I'm
Do you
trying to
think
get
that the
back.
Tetragrammaton's not a name?
The Tetragrammaton is a name that
Yeah.
we, as a third person, refer to him as. We wouldn't refer
Yes, that's
to
what
him
names are for.
in the first person. Yes.
Well,
we
no,
wouldn't
I
refer
can
to
say
him
that
in the
I
first person.
am Blitz. That's fine. Blitz is a name. Names can be used in the can be used to refer to you in the first person, or other people can use them to refer to you in the third person. That's neither.
Okay,
like,
so
the
would you
names don't distinguish.
would you
names don't
refer to
have
yourself?
grammatical.
Would you
well, sometimes
refer
they do,
to would you refer to yourself as Adam Everest?
no, that's your name.
Exactly. So you would refer to me in the third person and say, he is Adam Everest. So
Yeah.
when we say Yahweh, which is the Tetragrammaton, right?
Mm-hmm.
We say that he exists. But when God refers to
And
himself,
that's not a name.
grammatically, hold on. It is a name because we just established
Literally
that
not a
he
name.
gave.
If you're using the word he, if you say he exists, then you're using a pronoun in place of the name. A pronoun isn't a name. It can't be.
What I'm saying is you wouldn't refer to yourself as the person that you're talking to. And in the Hebrew, the first person is Asher or Haya, Asher, Haya. And then in the third person of that same word is Yahweh, the Tetragrammaton, right?
Which word is
So
that the
when
third person of?
Yahweh is the third is a reference of the third person to Asher or Haya, Asher, Haya.
Okay, so that's a sentence. A
Which is
sentence
the-
doesn't have a third person.
All right. I don't know why this is confusing.
Because you're not
I-
making any grammatical sense. You're saying that like a word is the third person version of a sentence. Whereas the word that you're referring to is not a third person anything, it's a name, and the sentence doesn't have first, second, or third person.
So is the tetragrammaton a name?
Yes.
Okay. So we agree that it's that it's a name. Is it one word?
Yeah, it's 4 letters.
Okay. All right. So when Jesus, or not with Jesus, when the Father says, "Tell them I am has sent you," right?
This are you referring to
that?
John
Look
8
this up.
John 8:58, or where are you referring to?
No, I'm still in. I can't move past.
Well,
this
because you're
I
talking
need
about
this
Jesus saying something, right? Or are you talking about when the burning bush said to Moses? Which one are you talking about?
The burning bush.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, all right. Haya is the name.
No, it's
God
not
makes
the
a
name.
statement in 14. Hold on. God makes a statement. He says, he said unto Moses, I am that I am. And he said, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am has sent me unto you.
Yep.
And God said, moreover, unto Moses, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, the Lord God, the Father. Okay, so that word, I am, which is Strong's 1961, is the name that he gives for all time.
That's a big claim. I am's not a name.
Okay, so who names
Also,
God?
to
That's
be
my
clear,
question. Who names God?
He does. Actually, we do.
He does.
Really.
So if we can agree,
we do. I mean,
that
like,
God,
I don't think that God exists for what it's worth. So, like,
you know, for the sake of the argument, on your part, if someone asks you, hey, what's your name, and no one's ever given you a name,
but that's
and you say,
that's the point.
You know,
He doesn't
I
just
am
say
what
what's
I
your
am.
name. He says,
as a matter of fact, from now,
what should I say to them? What is your name? What should I say to them? And he says, I am that I am.
He personalizes it, and he asks them, who should I say sent me?
Wait, where are you reading that?
So he's definitely asking him for an identification.
Where are you reading, who shall I say sent me?
Matter of fact, there it is. What is his name? He does
and
ask
then
him for
read
a
the
name.
next sentence or the next phrase.
And Moses said unto God, behold, when I come unto the children of Israel.
What's the next phrase?
This is verse 13.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we're looking at verse 13.
What?
What's the next phrase after the
what is
his name?
What is his name, and what shall I say unto them?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that we agree. The question that's being answered is, what shall I say unto them?
Yeah, what is his name, and what shall I say unto them? He's asking God. There's a dialogue where he's asking God, hey, what's your name, and what should I tell them?
Yeah, and so the question is which question is God answering when he says, tell them I am what I am? Or rather, he actually doesn't even say that. He just says, I am that I am. He says, and God said unto Moses, I am that I am. So which question is he answering?
Well, he answers his name, and then he gives them a message as well.
Are you sure? Because apparently the scholars aren't.
Let's go. Let me get into it, because I'm reading out of the concordance, and it's confusing with all of the references. Let me just read it out of the regular Bible. 3. Go gather the elders of Israel together and say to them, Yahweh, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has. Well, that's the whole point. He's telling them what
names.
to say now. Yeah, exactly. That it's not this. It's not a different name. It's a different.
They are different. They're different. Like the mouth sounds are different, right?
Haya is me talking about me. I am Adam Everest.
And so when God
But when I'm
says, tell
telling you
them,
what to
tell
say
them
now,
tell them I, the
now
God of
he's
your fathers, the God of Abraham, that's also God talking about God, right?
now he's telling them how to refer to him in the third person. You wouldn't refer to to yourself, or you wouldn't refer to me in the
Okay,
first
hold on.
person.
We need to back
because
up.
You're the
We need to back up. First of all, if somebody comes up to me and asks, hey, what's your name? What should I tell people about you? And I say, I am the physicist. Thus you shall say unto your followers, the physicist has sent me unto you. Does that make it my name?
No.
Okay. Secondly,
it doesn't.
Secondly, if later,
Can I rebuttal
I
there, though?
have to finish the analogy. If
Go ahead.
later I say, thus you should say to the children, Dr. Blitz, the physicist of your fathers, the physicist of Abraham, blah, 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 has sent me unto you. Does that mean that Dr. Blitz is the third person version of the physicist? Because I just replaced the physicist with I am that I am, and Dr. Blitz with, the tetragrammaton.
Listen, I understand what you're saying, but I
Okay.
think you're just missing the grammatics of the actual word. That's all.
Look, man, can you read Hebrew?
I cannot read Hebrew. No.
Okay, I can read Hebrew. So of the two of us, who is more likely to not understand what's happening grammatically here, I suspect it's you.
Well, how much Hebrew do you read?
I took 6 years. I can read it. I can read it perfectly. I just can't follow it in conversation.
Okay.
I wasn't reading English transliteration. I was reading the literal Hebrew when I was saying it. That's why I said that's wrong. It's ehye, asher, ehye. Because I was reading the Hebrew.
So I just don't understand why there's conflicting information. So you're telling me that you took Hebrew, but again, with a simple Google search, if we Google that and figure out why those two words are different, it gives you an exact reason as to why they're different with
if you
all
use
of the
Google
grammatics
AI,
and everything behind it.
If you use Google AI, it's going to pull from apologetic websites. Of course it will, because those are going to be the ones that are most frequently talking about this.
So let's not use Google AI.
Yeah, okay, let's just use Wikipedia, where it says that there's no consensus.
I mean, let's see, verse. How was that spelled? EH?
It's a Hebrew word. There's no English spelling. Like, if you want to look up the third person plural or the third person past tense of like the word to be, we could, but it's not the tetragrammaton.
I mean, so you're saying that Hebrew scholars they disagree on that? They disagree
Yes.
on the okay, and what is that off of? That's off of Wikipedia?
Yeah, and also just the word he, like, probably what you want is something like he is or he will be. And neither of those translate to Yud He Vav He. It's not present in any of those translations.
What pops up on your, since
I'll show you.
You're against the apologetics, yeah?
So the closest
the
thing that you'll get
would be out of there.
The closest thing that you'll find, by the way, to what you want, is here. This is like, if you took the English phrase "he will be," so it's not third person past, it's third person singular, future tense, but fine. The closest thing you'll get to is hu yeah, right? And yeah is very close, but it's not the same thing. It's a different word. That's the closest that you'll get with any sort of conjugation of the word to be or to exist or am or whatever, right? That's the closest you'll get.
So what again? What else pops up on your?
We can just go look at the sources on
here's the
Wikipedia, right?
Wikipedia.
We can just go look at the sources. We provide sources. That's the lovely part, right? We have a note here. We have 5, 6, 7 sources. Theological cartographies, mapping the encounter with God, humanity, and Christ. Dietrich Proust, which is just a book on the Tetragrammaton. The Encyclopedia of Christianity. Theological Dictionary of the Old Testament. Like, it gives us sources. Like, it is a very Christian interpretation to say, yes, Jesus was God because he said the thing, he said that, he is what he is, which is also what God said in Exodus. And even though that's not how God is referred to by name, that's like kind of a name, so it must be God's name. And it's actually like, this is just a Christian interpretation to try to kind of shove Jesus into the Hebrew Bible.
I don't know, man. Everything that I'm looking up, it's giving me the same things.
Where are you looking up?
This one, let me read this one. This one's off of Wikipedia. I'm seeing that you're accepting Wikipedia. So.
Wikipedia is usually fine. It usually provides the sources if something's skeptical. I'll show everybody the etymology of the word. Here's the Wikipedia article, relevant Wikipedia text. The Hebrew Bible explains it by the formula Ehyeh. This is the part that you were talking about. The name of God revealed to Moses in Exodus. The phrase blah 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 in Exodus 3:14 can be understood not as the revelation of a name, but as an etymological explanation of come meaning. This would frame Yud He Vav He as an imperfect aspect of the Hebrew triconsonantal root He Yud He come to pass with a third person masculine prefix equivalent to English he in place of the first person aleph, which is thereby affording translations as he who causes to exist, he who is, etc. Although this would elicit the form Yud He rather than Yud He Vav He. To rectify this, some scholars propose that the Tetragrammaton derived instead from the triconsonantal root He Vav He, itself an archaic doublet of He Yud He, with the final form eliciting translations similar to those derived from the same. As such, the consensus among modern scholars considers that Yud He Vav He represents a verbal form. In this case, the Yud prefix represents the third masculine verbal prefix of the verb He Yud He or He Vav He, to be as indicated by the Hebrew Bible. So that's the issue, right? Like, you can perhaps resolve this by saying like, oh, actually, the Tetragrammaton comes from like some other triconsonantal root, which is somehow related to this third root that we know to be the triconsonantal root for to be, but like it's sus. And apparently it's not agreed upon by all the scholars. That's the issue.
Is there anything that's going to be agreed upon by all the scholars?
It's not even consensus, right? And if you want to talk to somebody who can read Hebrew, who knows ancient Hebrew, you should go talk to my friend Justin. Have you spoken with Justin? Deconstruction Zone?
No, this is the first time I've ever done this. I used to get on and talk to flat earthers, because flat earthers used to say that they would say that the Bible teaches a flat earth. And
it kind of does, but I'm glad that you're not a flat earther. So look, and I'm not a biblical scholar. The only reason I know Hebrew is because I had a Jewish upbringing and I went to Hebrew school. I'm not a biblical scholar. But my friend Justin, maybe not a biblical scholar, but he does know ancient Hebrew. He does have a master's of divinity in something or other. He's studying for his PhD in ancient Near East theology. And he would have a very fruitful conversation with you. You might have an interesting conversation. So, in fact, actually, if you want to have that conversation with him, I'd recommend that, because he's actually, like, if not an authority, he knows who the authorities are. He's not live right now, but I can, if you want, and I can just send you a link to his page.
Yeah.
And he should be live. I don't know. If he's not live today, he'll probably be live tomorrow. And he's live usually after I am, so like a little bit after this. I'm just gonna paste this in the Discord voice channel text box. It's his account. It's just Deconstruction Zone if you've seen him around. yeah, I guess he'll be live in like a few hours. So if you wanna stick around and ask him questions, then he's the right person to do it.
Yeah, maybe, man. Yeah.
All right, Adam, I am gonna let you go because I need to go eat lunch and drink some coffee because man, do I have a headache.
All right, man. Sorry to take your time, man.
You're fine. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, I'm gonna read some super chats and then I gotta end the live because I am dying over here. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. We have $10 from Flux Channeler. I am was that I am was what he was when he was me, and I am me that was the he that is me. True. True. From Christopher Sanford with the £2, caller, please stop mispronouncing Hebrew. Look, not everybody took Hebrew. Like, it's fine. It's fine to mispronounce things sometimes. From Flux Channeler, again with the $10. I worship the only parsimonious Holy Trinity, King Ghidorah. True. There you go. That's a Holy Trinity that I can get behind. From Randy Potatoes with the $5. Popeye said, I am what I am. That's all that I am. Did he really? And from Flux Channeler, again, I'm paying callers Ask Blitz to Google shit I could have Googled myself fee. Look, the thing is Google's AI, especially if you Google stuff that has theological relevance, the stuff that you'll get will be almost certainly coming from like a theological source, like a theology source that is probably not coming at this like objectively or linguistically or historically, but like rather coming at it from like with like a theological motivation. So that's why the Google AI is not great for that kind of thing. You have to actually go look at academic sources. And then last we have Jonathan Martin with $5 for the headache that came from that call. Hiya. It's funny. It's a funny joke that you did. Look, if you guys want to keep following me, I'm not going to be live for the rest of the day, I don't think. But if you want to stick around, feel free to subscribe, follow on TikTok, become a member or a follower or whatever on all of the various relevant social media like Twitch and YouTube and TikTok. There's also the option that you could, become like a $5 a month member on Patreon or on TikTok or on YouTube or on Twitch, wherever. These things are really helpful for me. And you get some perks. You get perks like a special Discord channel. You get perks like once a week or twice a week rather, you get me answering exclusively your questions. You get emojis, and most of all, you get my access to my debate notes, which are really neat. So, consider it. You don't have to, of course, but it does help me out a lot. In the meantime, I'm gonna go eat some lunch. I'll see you guys tomorrow. No, I lied. Actually, I will be on something tomorrow. Twitch does have Prime subs too. Yeah, if you have Amazon Prime, go send over your Prime sub. I will be on something tomorrow. I'll send out an announcement on the Discord server when I'm where and when I will be. Take care, everybody.